Hello, everyone, to the second part of Pluto in Aquarius. And today we're going to talk about Pluto passing through the 12 houses. Now, it's a little bit complicated here because there are different house systems. And according to different house systems, Pluto will transit different houses at different it depends because there are like 20 house systems. There's Placidus, Campanus, there is Koch, there is whole sign, there is equal sign. So I cannot tell which one to use. I personally look at both whole sign and I check the house cusps using either Placidus or Campanus. There is a bit of a difference with the house cusp, but if you use house cusp house system, the ascendant, the seventh house cusp, so the first house cusp, the seventh house cusp, the 10th house cusp, and the fourth house cusp in all unequal house systems is always the same. It's always the same. So this will always be correct and you always feel it. So if you're gonna, if you happen to have Aquarius in any of those four signs of houses on the cusp, you'll definitely feel it exactly when Pluto transits that degree. That will be the peak. But for the other houses, like the second, the fifth, the ninth, the 11th, the 8th, the 12th, the cusps move depending on what house system you use. I've noticed for me, Campanus works very powerfully, but some people might notice that Placidus works. So you can experiment and try different house systems and see if the house cusp in Aquarius moves for you somewhere, previous degrees, later degrees, and watch out for these two moments because they can be important. But usually how I like to use it is when Pluto enters a sign from the ascendant, I consider it that it's already influencing that house, like whole sign house system. And then if there is any cusps there, I would check them out as well. If there is any cusp in that sign in Aquarius that we're looking at, in your horoscope, there might be two house cusps for some of you using Placidus or Campanus. There might be no house cusps for some of you, sometimes what they call intercepted sign. But you look at it definitely as a whole sign house. So if your ascendant is, for example, Virgo, Aquarius will be the sixth sign from Virgo. You count starting from the sign of the ascendant. You count Virgo, Libra, second, third is Scorpio, fourth is Sagittarius, fifth is Capricorn, sixth sign from it is Aquarius. So that will be, is transiting your sixth house. But also if there is a cusp there, pay attention to it. So sometimes it might be the sixth sign, for example, from your ascendant, that Pluto will be transiting, but the fifth house cusp is there. So that can be interesting. Then you look at the fifth house cusp, and when Pluto transits exactly the cusp, you would notice developments connected to the fifth house, but it's in the sixth sign from the ascendant. So you would also consider that Pluto in those 20-year period will influence and transform the sixth house overall. So let me just share with you how you can desktop. I'll use my transit calendar, transit calculator, but you can use anything you want. You can use astro.com, you can use AstroSeek, and houses, they work only if you know your time of birth. Like if you are 4 minutes off with your time of birth, say you are born 320, but actually you're born 324, there will be, because Pluto moves so slowly, there might be a whole year difference until you feel it to the cusp. So if you have a pretty correct time of birth, house cusps work. Otherwise, it might be a bit hard. Otherwise, if you don't know at all your time of birth, it's hard to use houses. Then use it from your sun sign. It's more general. You still feel it, but it's not as specific as from the ascendant. So let me just show you how. Let's enter any kind of detail, some name. Let's say someone born August I'm just putting random numbers here. Continue. I've chosen it down. And we're going to look at this little house cusp. They're misspelled here. It says house cusp details. So the first is the ascendant, and we're looking, do we see anything in Aquarius? Here it is. This person will has their 7th house cusp in Aquarius. So from the moment Pluto now enters in Aquarius, they'll start feeling some of those themes of Pluto in the 7th house, even though the 7th house cusp Pluto's gonna reach it in 10 years. It's in the middle of the sign, around 15 degrees. Here is how you can check out. Where is 15 degrees? Here, 2023 already, maybe from 2032, 2033, 2033, 2034, they'll have Pluto exactly transiting their 7th house cusp. I hope you understand what I'm showing. Yeah, you can find always what degree it is. You can find it and you can see which year it's going to happen. But for me already, because I love whole sign house system, I believe that a sign is like a house. And when you enter the house, a planet enters the house, and say Pluto emits black smoke, for example. Well, even if you're at the other end of the house where the cusp is, you would already feel that there is black smoke there, Well, if you move to another sign, there is a wall, kind of like energetic wall between. So it's going to be, that's why I believe that from the moment Pluto enters the sign from the ascendant, whatever house it is, or a house, if there is a house, because there Pluto starts affecting it. But the actual impact will be when Pluto hits that cusp. The most important events, the most powerful events will be around that time. So porphyry, yeah, someone uses porphyry. Again, if you're new to astrology and you don't understand it, just stick with whole signs. So from the ascendant, I'll be mentioning, but also check if you see a house cusp, any house cusp in Aquarius, and we're going to speak only about the conjunction. Because, let me stop sharing a little, I just want to show you how we're going to look at transits to houses. Pluto transiting a house for many years. Is Pluto transits a house for many years? It can be like 20 years. So its effects will not be felt at all the time, but usually only when it crosses the cusp or when it makes an aspect from that house to another planet in the natal chart. So let's say this girl here, whoever it is, Pluto enters in Aquarius now in March, but does she have Pluto making any aspects to her? To her sun around the same time on opposition. It will square Mars. So when at 6 degrees, so in around 2-3 years, Pluto will square from the 6th sign of her of her horoscope, will square her natal Mars. So that's when she'll start to, even though Pluto has not crossed already the degree of the 7th house, because you see her Mars is in earlier degree, she will feel, or he, that person I just invented, he will feel the influence of Pluto from the 7th house, just for that 1-2 years while it's squaring her or Mars. Then Pluto will oppose Mercury of this person. Well, again, we have to see which year it is at 11 degrees. At 11 degrees, let's check when is Pluto at 11 degrees. 2030, 2031, these 2 years should again feel Pluto in the 7th house, because from the 7th sign, it's making a hard aspect to another planet. So the themes of the 7th house will be triggered. Again, when Pluto crosses exactly the ascendant, the descendant, the 7th house cusp, like you saw, it's at 15 degrees. She will feel the theme of Pluto in the seventh house very powerfully. And after that, Pluto actually, first she'll feel Pluto will square her Saturn, will oppose her Saturn from the seventh house in 2 years from now. So that will be the first time she'll start feeling the activation of this Pluto in the seventh house. And you feel Pluto from the house it is transiting, usually if it's making hard aspects from there, for those topics to be activated very strongly, which means if it's making a conjunction in that house, opposition or square. We talked about how to find if you have opposition, square, or conjunction. It has to be planets either in Aquarius, in Leo, Scorpio, or Taurus, where there is this 90 degree aspect or 180 or exact conjunction. So this person, and of course, if Pluto is making sextile or trine from a house it is transiting, again, the topics of that house will be triggered, but in a more easy way, through the more positive manifestation of that house. So you can, but when it's a hard aspect, you know that some of the more challenging manifestations will also show there. It doesn't mean it's going to be negative thing that happens. It doesn't mean that that house, the house of Pluto, will give some horrible results necessarily. Just the opposite. It might be big transformation, but in a bit more uncomfortable way, in a more kind of more crisis-prone way, rather than more natural, organic way with the sextile and the trine. And let me go back here. So remember that Pluto transiting a house for many years, so its effects is not felt all the time. Like someone, I'm going to have Pluto transiting the seventh house, 20 years crisis in relationship. Not at all, not at all. Sometimes it's just more like a background. And because you get so used to this energy of Pluto, whatever house it is transiting, that you stop noticing it unless some external events remind you and activates again. Like I showed you with this horoscope. Usually when Pluto is making sextile or trine to a planet in your horoscope, the more positive side of the house of the transiting Pluto manifests. If making an oppositional square to a natal planet, the more challenging sides of the house of transiting Pluto might also manifest, plus the positives. As I showed you with Pluto making so many hard transits in my chart, yes, there were some crisis periods. Yes, when Pluto, I had a surgery when Pluto exactly squared my sun. And so some of those most stressful things of Pluto, but overall the results were amazing. If Pluto is conjunct a planet in a house, the effects of that house will be most potent. So basically, if you have planets in Aquarius, while Pluto is transiting that planet in Aquarius, that house will be activated. The meaning of that house will be most potent. Again, it can be both positive, sometimes more difficult. When Pluto, and now you have to pay attention to this, right? It gets a bit more complex. When Pluto is aspecting a natal planet in another house, you can also look at the meaning of that house as per Pluto in houses material, because I gave you a list of description of all the meanings of houses, but I'll talk about that. And it will trigger that house for about a year or two during the transit of Pluto to the planet in that house. Say, for example, you have Venus at 2 degrees Scorpio in the second house. Pluto will square Venus. Will be squares. So will be squared by, oh my God, I've made mistakes here. Will be squares by Pluto in the fifth. So Pluto will be, say, imagine Pluto is transiting your fifth house. And is going to be squaring Venus, which is in your second house. Let me show you here. Say Venus is in Scorpio. We know that Pluto will be in Aquarius all the time. I'll stop sharing so you can see. Pluto is in Aquarius. Say your Venus is at the beginning of Scorpio. Say your Libra rising, for example. This is your first house. And in the next 2 years, Pluto will square Venus. So you're going to feel Pluto in the fifth house. So you're going to listen to the part of the webinar where I speak about Pluto in the fifth house. You would very strongly feel Pluto in the fifth house during that time. But also Venus being in the second house, you'd listen to Pluto square Venus, what it means on its own, but also you'd listen to Pluto transiting the second. It's not going to transit in the second, but it will activate a planet in your second house. So your second house also gets activated by Pluto for about 1.5 years or 2, depends. Usually Pluto transits a planet for about 1 year, but it slows down in Aquarius for about 2 years. So you'd feel your second house activated by Pluto for 2 years, and your fifth house, it will be for 20 years, but very intensely while Pluto squares planets. So this you have to combine both the meaning of the fifth and the second. So there will be like matters regarding, for example, children during that time, about finances, the second house, or about love life, fifth house, and about second house might be about, again, values. There might be some power struggles about values or money or valuables and such kind of stuff. Or there might be some creative project that you're very passionate about. Pluto in the fifth house, the company you're building or whatever. And during a couple of years, you'd have to like mobilize yourself financially because the second house gets triggered, and find ways to be more resourceful, find kind of squeeze out hidden resources out of somewhere and so on. So you see, you have to listen. So you don't only listen to the house where Pluto is transiting for you. That will be the most pivotal one. But you pay attention to say if you have Jupiter in Leo and Pluto opposes it, say you are Capricorn rising. Now let's say that. So you listen to Pluto transiting your second house. This is 20 years where Pluto will do the most important work. But for about a couple of years, say in 10 years from now, Pluto will oppose your Jupiter. And you listen to what Pluto opposition Jupiter means on its own. But then Jupiter is in your 8th house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So not only the second house matters will be activated for those 2 years Pluto opposes Jupiter, but also 8th house themes of Pluto. So just for a couple of years, Pluto will be giving effects like transiting the 8th house. So almost, the 8th and the second. Also, you have planet in Gemini, let's say Jupiter in Gemini or Mars, whatever. Pluto will be trining. Now let's give you an ascendant in Pisces. So you have Mars in the 4th house from Pisces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pluto is making a trine for a couple of years to your 4th house, Mars. So Pluto will give the effects all the time for 20 years of being in the 12th house. But for a couple of years while it's trining Mars, it will give its effects of like almost like Pluto transiting the 4th house, but more like the positive side of it, because Mars, of course, because it's a trine, so it's not going to be some stressful, but there will be some transformations. You can move, you can destroy and build a house, for example, something with your family, some changes and so on, some psychological digging into the past, into the traditions and so on. So I hope you're understanding that. Let me see. What if you don't have a house cusp in Aquarius? My 4th house starts in Capricorn and my 5th in Pisces. Lisa, what is your ascendant sign? If you can write it. So that's a very good question. Let's show this here, how it's happening for Lisa. So Lisa is Libra. We put Libra on the ascendant. Pluto is here. So her 5th house, her 4th house cusp starts in Capricorn. And it's, so Aquarius is what we call intercepted. So it's the 5th sign from your ascendant though. So I want you to listen to Pluto transiting the 5th house even though the 5th house cusp starts in Pisces for you, but also because it's probably your 4th house cusp in Placida starts very late in Capricorn, you listen to Pluto through the 4th house as well. And pay attention, which events are happening more? Is it 5th house events or 4th house events? This is how you figure out which house system works better for you. I'm still constantly checking my chart and that of my loved ones to see, and sometimes I see it manifested like a whole sign transit. Sometimes I see it manifested as an unequal house system. So yeah, so I kind of like, I would look at both and people say, well, it can't be affecting 2 houses. It's impossible. Why is it impossible? It's like, it can be, you know, Pluto is still very close to the 4th house cusp for you. So you'd feel a lot of the things of the 4th house while it's in Aquarius, but it's already the 5th sign from the ascendant. So it will bring themes of 5th sign of the 5th house as well. Because the cosine house system, it's how it relates to you personally, because we look at the angular relationships of the signs towards the ascendant, and that's you. So you definitely feel that. And then when Pluto crosses in 20 years from now, your cusp in the 5th house sign, in your 5th house cusp, which is in the 6th sign, you'd probably have some relevant event for about a year or 2, also connected to this 5th house. But definitely you'd feel the 5th sign from the ascendant, 5th house, plus I believe that also because of the, if you're using an equal house system, you pay attention to 4th house themes and start seeing, say, if Pluto is, for example, squaring from there, let's say, or squaring your Saturn from there at the beginning of the transit, see what themes come up. Is it 5th house? Is it about your love life? Is it about your relationship? Is it about your children themes that come? Or is it more connected, something to do with your property leaking, whatever, which is the 4th house? And you'll know, okay, Aquarius resonates more to the 4th house for me here, you know, or to the 5th. So unfortunately, only God can tell us which is the right one. They're both correct. They're just looking at the elephant from a different angle. The unequal house systems, people say they're more psychological. While the equal ones, they're more like event-based. I cannot tell you the exact which one it is, but I've noticed that I definitely feel, for myself, I feel very strongly the whole sign house system. But if a planet crosses the 4th house cusp, which is the IC, the MC, the ascendant or descendant, degrees matter so much that you will notice it. So I have Jupiter in Aquarius in my 3rd house. So it will be a conjunction exactly. Will Pluto be amplified by Jupiter? More like Pluto will transform your Jupiter, because Pluto is transiting your Jupiter. Pluto will, my brother recently had Pluto Jupiter opposition, square, sorry. And he became so obsessed about a belief system. He discovered a new belief system. And for the last 2 years, while Pluto's been squaring, all he does is that. He even changed his career to base and to match his belief system. And so it's everything he put towards that belief system to preach it to the world. It's a flat earth belief system. He's fully dedicated, making videos, translating. So, you know, I'm not saying you'll become flat earther, but when Pluto aspects Jupiter, you become very passionate and obsessed about some belief system. And Pluto conjunct also can be money, big money sometimes, and resources and wealth and so on. What would be the effects if transiting Pluto is opposite natal Chiron? I've never worked with Chiron. I have to be honest about that. So I don't pay attention, but I know that Chiron can be connected to some wounding. So maybe Pluto would want to break through some wounding. Do you have a wounding connected to children, to love, to romance, something that hurt you, to your confidence, to your creative expression? So Pluto might make you work through this. Sometimes Chiron has noticed to manifest through actual physical health problems. So there might be something that you really start digging deeply to resolve it, and that can hopefully resolve some physical health issue as well. So, but I because I haven't observed it much, I'm just talking here more like through symbology, what I know Chiron to mean. Transiting Pluto is conjunct exactly my natal Uranus at 9 degrees in Aquarius. You can feel this, so 9th house energies. Depends what Aquarius rules in your horoscope as well, but usually it's important if it rules the ascendant, then it will feel very personal, not more like generational. Annie has, I do not have any planets in Aquarius, but you probably have planets in Leo, all the other signs that might be aspected by Pluto. Sagittarius, Libra, Leo, Gemini, Taurus, Aries. You know, Pluto will be Scorpio. Pluto will be aspecting all those. My ascendant is in 4 degrees Aquarius. So Pluto will be transiting soon. We're starting now. I'm going to start talking what it means. Ooh, Rebecca has a lot of Aquarius, Sun in Aquarius, Mars, Saturn, 11th house cusp in Aquarius. Rebecca, that's interesting. I told you when people have powerful Pluto transits, that can make them or break them. Like, for example, they can come into power during that time. They can have a lot more influence. They can be, look at Jeff Bezos and so on. And a lot of political figures, always when they come into power, they tend to have some powerful Pluto transits. You know, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm also very nervous, Rebecca. I'm Aquarius rising. With Pluto, I tell you, it's very hard to predict the actual physical events that will happen. You know, I've spoken with so many people about their Pluto transits, and some people, they're like, nothing happened. Like, seriously, no, I'm like, nothing external that changed, nothing drastic. They didn't notice anything. Pluto crosses the ascendant or the ascendant, like, nothing. And it's like Pluto doesn't exist for them. I don't know if it's maybe those people like work very well with the energies of these people work very well with the energies of Pluto, or maybe it's this planet is so unusual. Metaphysical planet, yeah. While others, they'll tell you horror stories. While others, they'll tell you incredible stories. So I told you the level of, especially for Pluto, of manifestation, the material manifestation is very hard to predict. Usually more correct is the psychological and the emotional and the spiritual changes that happen. Oof. Yesterday was way worse. I could be held like a fish out of. Okay. All right. So let's start. And so I don't want you to get scared, because I have felt all the Pluto transits that happen in my horoscope, but it's serious. And all the people that I've watched around me, they have definitely felt it on a psychological level. Many have had material manifestations as well of that. But a few people truly maybe they have nothing to really transform for. I don't believe there are such people, but I've read it many people. It's just maybe they don't register that planet, or maybe they're so plutonic already, it's the norm for them, you know. It depends on the level of consciousness. Yes, actually, let me say something. Sarah reminded me yesterday. Radka says she can't hear me. You can hear me, guys. Yeah. Yes. So depending on what's your level of consciousness, but now I don't want you grading yourself, but people that vibrate below 200, which is where the feelings of fear, dread, desire are, this is how many percent? About more than 60% of humanity vibrates below 200. If it's not even, no, more than, it's like 70 or 80%, where they're driven by fear, by desire. But thankfully, actually, the majority of people, especially in Western worlds, or anyone who's studying astrology and is digging into such topics, you know, definitely above 200. If you're operating from below 200, which means survival, life feels, you know, it's a feeling of struggle. Life is always a struggle. Everything is negative. You're afraid all the time. That's a very painful vibration to have. And when Pluto comes, it can feel even like life-threatening. It can feel like someone is chasing you, or like everything, you know, it can shake you up, and it can be a way to wake you up of some kind of a very ingrained pattern. And it can usually can happen for people below 200 through some kind of a crisis, like a proper, the more ruthless ways of Pluto. But people on a higher vibration, above 200, and it's very easy to be above 200, as long as you feel like a normal person, as long as you're not constantly depressed or in fear or in total addiction of some sort, you're usually above 200. And usually then from 200 to 400, those measures, they're more intellectual, it's more on the mental processes. They can be more like on the psychological level that they feel Pluto. And if you're above 400 and or 500 even vibration, which is very rare, it's like 1 in a million people, something like that, or 1 in 10,000 is 500, which is love, constantly feeling in the flow. Things line up for you always. Usually Pluto is like just a feeling, I guess. But most of the people are between 200 and 500. So that's, you know, they're really kind of in horrible, let's say horrible, but like scary things happen under 200. So temporarily, everyone can drop under 200. If a person you love die, you drop under 200. Grieving is part of that vibration, maybe for a few months. If you get divorced or something, you might feel fearful and worried for, you know, your future for a few months. But if your natural base is above 200, sooner or later you come back there. But you know, because Pluto is connected to death, if there is some death experience around during people, it doesn't matter what vibration you are. If your grandma is supposed to pass, she will pass, and it has nothing to do with what your vibrational level is. Especially sometimes, many times, Pluto hard transits don't necessarily affect us directly, because other planets in the horoscopes are other people. It might be your spouse, it might be that a friend is going through hard times, and that can, you know, you cannot, it will show in your horoscope, but you cannot change how they experience that event. So it's not only about your own personal vibration, so to say. Do you look at the final dispository of the activated planet? Well, you can dig in there if you want. You can dig deep like that. Usually a planet who is transited, if its ruler is in a good sign, strong or close to an angle, this planet has more staying power, so to speak, so has a better foundation. Now, let's start with the houses. If your ascendant is in Aries, first house cusp in Aries, doesn't matter when, what degree, that means Pluto will be transiting your first house. Even if it's later degrees Aquarius, Pluto might reach it, say, in 15 years from now, but you'll already kind of start on the theme of the first house energy that Pluto affects. But if you're using Placidus, you still might feel like Pluto in your, you might, say that Pluto is in the top. But if Pluto is crossing your first house in any time in the next 20 years, it means that Pluto will be working on you. This is a once in a lifetime, and many people, only maybe only 1/4 of people will ever have Pluto transiting their ascendant. Not everyone will have it. This is a big thing. This is life-changing, new chapter in life. It's a new beginning, So it's if Pluto transits someone's sun, moon, or ascendant, I mean, that's huge. The ascendant is very powerful. It's yourself. It's your incarnation on this earth. It's your physical body. It's your path in life. So when Pluto starts going into that first sign, first house, it means that you're starting a new karmic chapter. It's almost like for the last 15 or whatever years, you've been closing a karmic chapter. Actually, it might not be just karmic chapter in this lifetime. You might be closing a karmic chapter from previous lives. And a lot happens while Pluto has been transiting your 12th house. It's almost like more endings that happen while Pluto was in Capricorn, more things out of your control, more like you're seeing results of previous actions, and more like life and forces outside of your influence are leading you and directing your life. It's while the moment Pluto starts entering your first house and affecting it, you can start feeling more in control. Because Pluto is control, first house is you. You can start taking the power and now starting a new story. It's a new slate, clean slate. While Pluto transits the 12th house, it wipes out the karma, or you pay off the karma of previous lifetimes, or this part of life that till then. There is like a cleaning of the astral body while Pluto transits the 12th house, and the moment it starts transiting the first house, new beginning. So you can feel like you're stripped bare, like almost naked, that you are starting a new and it's, what can I say? It is a new karmic cycle, guys, and you might be on this karmic cycle, not just this lifetime, because maybe in the next lifetime that you're born, Pluto will not transit your ascendant. It will continue to transit through other houses in your horoscope. But now you're given a very rare, opportunity to start all over anew, to start as a new person. I mean, some people, I've even seen people change their name when Pluto transits their ascendant. People change their appearance because Pluto transforms, while it's in the first house, your whole self-identity, your whole role and image that you have of yourself, the role that you play in society, who you are. And that often gets expressed by people even changing how people look. I've seen sometimes people have surgical interventions, like do something on their face or the body when Pluto transits the ascendant, because that's one of the themes, Sometimes I've seen them just change their look. Sometimes Pluto can even make you like darken the look a bit, making it so you're not standing out too much. So it's more subtle, so it's more mysterious. And also people say that, I've noticed that when Pluto transits someone's first house, especially the ascendant, people were saying that they find that others either are really drawn to them magnetically and fascinated and even obsessed with them, or that others become scared from them. They're like, don't mess with me kind of energy when Pluto is transiting your first house. Because you're taking your power back. You're becoming somehow, especially the 2 years when Pluto exactly transits the ascendant, but it might be the whole 20-year period, not as intensely, that you become like a Scorpio somehow, that you become, here, Nirvana has Pluto in the first house with his sun. So, so it's, people can, there is this, even though, well, Pluto transits the ascendant, it might be creating some pretty intense changes for you. And you might feel like you are smashed under the energy of the transformations, that internally, psychologically, you're being broken and rebuilt. But externally, people start finding you sexier. Like, go figure. It's something about this primal energy that's running through you. The energy of Pluto is definitely connected with the Kundalini energy, you know, the coiled snake at the base of the, what's that called? The backbone. Even the symbol is like a snake, plutonium. And it can start rising, whether it's transiting the sun, the moon, or the ascendant. It can start rising, and you know what happens when the Kundalini energy starts rising? You start going crazy psychologically. You start feeling it's such intense energy inside of you, that also people might become like the sexual energy can awaken or whatever, or that primitive animal-like energy, because Pluto is also connected to the reptilian brain. Fight or flight. You see, Pluto is almost on my ascendant within a degree. And I'm, again, all Pluto transits I had, it's the anxiety levels are high for some reason, because of this energy starts rising. And if you don't know what to do with it, it can create anxiety. And there is like this restructuring of your whole energy and etheric body inside when Pluto transits a pivotal planet, sun, moon, or ascendant, exactly. So it's very important, if Pluto will be transiting your first house, to find something to channel that energy. Otherwise, you might feel like you're going a bit crazy, or that you're going through panics, that you're going through mental breakdown. You know, I had many people that went through Pluto in their first house, a lot of Capricorn rising people. They experienced intense things, but they were transformed and empowered. And interesting thing is that almost all of them found a lot of help through sports, through some kind of a routine. Especially Pluto is like maybe high intensity one. But if you can't do that, anything that can channel your energy, just go for a walk or whatever. Otherwise, the anxiety is too much. Can it cause paranoia and obsessive behaviors? Yes. When Pluto squared my sun, and it's similar over the ascendant, it's another self energy. It wasn't constant, but for a few weeks, you can get obsessive behaviors and paranoia. But it's most intense for the 1-2 years while it's over your ascendant. And because the energy that the universe infuses in you is so powerful, this Plutonian, mystical, Kundalini energy, that you don't know what to do with it. You can, you can have dreams of snakes. You can see a lot of symbology of snakes and Plutonian stuff around as well. But this energy has to, and it can get some intense. Sometimes people have said when Pluto transits, especially the ascendant degree, or makes a hard aspect from the first house, that they feel like they're under attack by some force. And because it's directly affecting the 7th house as well, it might be a force from like someone targeting you. That is something I've noticed. Like they feel like their name is targeted, because you start exuding power. You start exuding this energy that can be quite disconcerting to others, that can be quite threatening to others. And you start getting attacked, and the attacks can be under the, low blows, or vicious sometimes, or just depending. But especially for Aquarius rising, Pluto is connected to the 10th sign from them, Scorpio. So maybe they have to be more careful starting power struggles with some authority figures, with institutions, with governments, with bosses, with father figures, with people with power. They might feel targeted through such people, to be careful about. Your brother will be undergoing this transit. He's not spiritual though. He might just become spiritual after this transit. Sorry. And it's the Pluto is like to turn you to become aware of the existence of other invisible realms. So if he doesn't become spiritual now, I don't know when, but that can definitely, after people undergo serious Pluto transits over ascendant, over sun, over moon, or square opposition, even the ones that don't believe the least, they start looking for answers. It it changes them, it humbles them. It is a nervous laughter. I became very spiritual. Yes, it's Pluto has a lot of spiritual energies, the natural 8th house energy, which opens you to the invisible worlds and to the realities of that. And with Pluto, because it's a bit of a predatory energy, as I said, like you can notice more predators or something like that, or stalkers even around you because of this powerful energy that you start exuding. Prayer, I don't know what else. And also because you become like a human barometer of others' emotions, you become like an X-ray when Pluto will transit your first house. You become like a Scorpio, basically. You might withdraw a little bit, you might become more skeptical, non-trusting to others. You're no longer going to be vulnerable, let's say that, when Pluto is in your first house. Actually, people feel more vulnerable while Pluto transits their 12th house, because those hidden processes are being somehow out of their reach. It's kind of external energies, while here, when it enters your sign, your power comes back. So even if others are attacking you or something, or challenging you, you are gonna really know what to do somehow intuitively. You're gonna, like, Pluto can cut off toxic people, can no bullshit. And if usually you're someone, because Aquarius rising people are very agreeable, very friendly. And if Pluto will be transiting your first house, believe me, they're not gonna be as friendly anymore. Let's say that. You can start wondering, oh, why they're becoming a bit like because Aquarius people don't, they can be very truthful and honest. And with Pluto here, they can be painfully truthful and honest now. But without, maybe they won't care so much what others think anymore. And that's another big lesson for Aquarius rising people, that Pluto will be transiting their ascendant, because they'll have a role to play. Whoever is Aquarius rising, Pluto in the next 20 years, they might have an important social role to play of some sort, to call out on the bullshit, on the lies, on the secrets in some way, or to even undertake some Plutonian path for those 20 years. Occultism, spirituality, psychology, influencing the masses in some way, transforming society in some way, through their own persona, through their own personal initiative. So they can play an important role in humanity. But first, they'll have to discover their own power, their own voice, and they'll come on strong, and they'll start noticing how influential and powerful their energies are. So you have to be careful that you don't use and manipulate others, because you will have this ability. You'll have this ability to read through others, to see through, and that's why you feel uncomfortable to others, because people would feel like you look at them and they can't, you can see their secrets, you can see their shadow, their deeper motivations. So, but while others will search out for you, like they'll be drawn to you because they want exactly that penetrating X-ray insight from you. So oh yeah, Nirvana says, yeah, people constantly expose their darker side without even asking for it. It can be very invasive. So, and others can look for you to share secrets, and you might be a holder of a lot of secrets over those next 20 years. But look, Pluto also rules the 10th house, the 10th sign. So some people can come into very power, into positions of great responsibility and authority. They can be projected on them the role, a new role of authority, a new role of some kind of overseeing something, having their own business or running something. But again, just more careful with authority figures, especially if Pluto will be making hard aspects from Aquarius. You can have clashes with authority figures. You can have clashes with government and institutions and such kind of stuff. Or you can even work in such institutions or with bosses. But if Pluto is making good aspects, you know, a lot of those things, you come into power, and such authority figures can transform and help you transform as well. Can it be as simple as a retirement when Pluto transits the 10th? Oh yeah, that's when my mom retired, when Pluto transited her MC, the 10th house cusp. And of course, surgeries of some sort are possible. Changing your appearance. I've seen people like really go. This is when Pluto transits your first house, is when someone can, for example, go lose 100 pounds, start running marathons, and before that they were smoking and drinking. Like such a turnaround in your life. And bad habits usually go away, because Pluto will force you. It can bring in the first house an illness if you have very toxic behaviors, very toxic emotional, psychological, and physically polluting behaviors. So Pluto asks you to be in a pretty much constant detox for a while. You're detoxing from everything. You're detoxing from fake people. You're detoxing from fake habits, from toxic habits. Anything untruthful in your life will fall off. And you'll be just bared down to the essentials, but to the ones that, and people tell me after Pluto passes their the degrees of their ascendant a year or two later, they feel they're this reborn person, light like a butterfly. This is the butterfly effect coming out of a cocoon when Pluto crosses over the ascendant. You come into your power, you become stronger, you have stronger willpower. Pluto is willpower, and Pluto, remember, is divine willpower. So somehow the universe, if you're not aligning your willpower, personal willpower and actions with divine actions and with divine willpower for yourself, that's when Pluto is crushing. And that's when, you know, Pluto can be tougher. But if you already are trying to, or if you're following your divine path, Pluto is even more empowering. But even for the ones that at first is crashing, that there is like a big shock and a change in their life, big closing of a chapter and the opening of a new one, maybe some crisis that it might be a health, or it might be just something like new beginnings, getting a divorce, starting a new career and direction overall in life. But even if initially it's crisis driven, after that a person learns to recognize divine power intuitively, divine will. And even if they're not naturally spiritual, believe me, after Pluto on the first house, they naturally start being drawn to them. I wouldn't look at progress charts, transits of Pluto. It's progress chart. Like, we're getting too down the rabbit hole. Just look at the main chart only. All right, so that's Pluto in the first house. I can give you a story. I had a friend who is Capricorn Sun and Capricorn ascendant, and Pluto and the Sun on the ascendant. And when Pluto transited there, and it's like a Capricorn, she was very like, her boyfriend was a billionaire. only yachts, the most expensive places, all her life, actually from 17 till 26 or 27, she was always with super rich boyfriend, like always. And her biggest fear is to lose this because she comes from a normal family. And when Pluto transited her ascendant and her sun, she broke up with the boyfriend. He broke up with her. She lost everything, the access to this billionaire world she had. Her biggest fear came true. But what happened is that within the 2 years Pluto was crossing her sun and her ascendant, she, for no other option, she was going through, she was hyperventilating. She says, I'm going crazy, I'm going mad, my biggest fear has come. And she turned, first of all, so spiritual. She learned astrology in 1 year, and she made a Pluto business. And Pluto's been in her first house, still is. Pluto is still in Capricorn. So it happened like 7, 8 years ago, 9. She, while it was still crossing her ascendant, she did a cleaning business. And now she has like 100 employees there. Pluto is very, cleaning is very Plutonian business. And while Pluto was still in her first house, she did another Plutonian business. So you see, Pluto in Capricorn works by making business, another Pluto business, which is about infusion of vitamins, which is again, needles, is very Plutonian, regeneration and youth and infusion of vitamins, very Plutonian business. And again, it's probably one of the most successful in London now. And she started with no money, with nothing. So instead of looking to others to give her this lifestyle, she created it. She took her power back. Yes, it broke her one day. It broke her, like all the servants, the yacht, everything disappeared from her life. She didn't know how she was going to pay the rent or whatever. That was a big shock for her, But she made it, and she reached that vibration that she wanted on her own. So I'm super proud of her. Oh, my friend with Sun in Cancer, Capricorn, was diagnosed with mysterious cancer in 2020. To this day, the cancer is not diagnosed from where it originated, has become advanced. But radiation, Pluto works on the tumors. Unfortunately, Pluto is connected to cancers. It's a mutation of the cells. I wish that it doesn't happen. All the Capricorn ascendants that I know, none of them has gotten cancer when Pluto was transiting their first house. But sometimes in extreme cases, Pluto transit over Sun, Moon, or ascendant, we shouldn't talk about that, guys. But again, Pluto, if it happens, big transformation of your lifestyle, and you can reverse that. Big transformation of your Pluto will be in Aquarius. Because it's in Aquarius, if anything critical happens, Aquarius is change your environment. Aquarius, change. That's what's gonna make to change your lifestyle through the environment, the people that you're surrounded with, and to kind of contribute to humanity in some way. That can be the healing and the answer, and of course, detox. That's why it's so important when Pluto transits the first of the Sun or the Moon to do some periodic detoxes, eliminate meat, to eliminate poisonous substances of any sorts. And that's when people transform their life. They stop drinking or smoking or whatever as well, even without illnesses. You just need Pluto, and it can take you to that level. Then if Pluto, so you are starting, if you Aquarius, a brand huge chapter, hopefully coming into your power and into your truth. Like, yes, you might be more intense and difficult to deal with. You will not be as compromising. You will not be as agreeable as normally. You will not be the sweet Aquarius, but you'll be a force of nature to be reckoned with. Well, Pluto first house, see life more black and white, like Scorpio rising, absolutely. A bit more, yeah, you can get into occult, into conspiracies and black and white. That's why it's important if you're having heavy Pluto transit, or if you're naturally heavy Pluto, like Pluto in your first house, Pluto with the Sun, it's very important that you go to the other direction. We talked a little bit. The lightness of the Taurus energy, the light flowers, nature, good food, what some people would call superficial, but you need that energy. It's not superficial. It's the angelic realms are connected to Taurus. The angelic realms work with nature, while the lower astral, and they work with feelings and whatever, but the lower astral energies try to approach us through the Scorpio side, which is through the desires. While if you want to raise yourself to the higher astral energies, the angels and so they work through plants and they work through nature and the sun. So instead of going into the underground, bring yourself out in nature, in the sun, in such kind of simple things, God-given things. Yeah, Taurus, five senses. Okay, so if Pluto is transiting over your second house cusp, or if you have Capricorn rising, so it will be in your second house, or if it's going to pass, or if you have the second house cusp in Aquarius, Pluto will pass there for the next, for the over the house cusp over 2 years only, but you're when Pluto transits the second house. And what I want to say is that wherever Pluto goes, this is where all the whatever house, this is where the biggest evolution will happen for you. This is the most important part that your soul is working on. And Pluto never passes more than 3-4 houses in person's life, unless you live to be 100 and something. Well, maybe 5-6 houses if Pluto is moving faster. But so it's in chunks of 10 or 15 or 20 years periods that Pluto, which is divine will, works on aligning your will and evolving your soul in that area of life. So for Aquarius rising people, Pluto is changing them, the whole life, the whole health, the whole lifestyle, the whole persona and the roles they're going to play. They can have a totally different roles and so on. The etheric body is the first house. Well, when Pluto enters the second house, your soul is working on you to understand matter, to understand and to put not only in order, but to master, because Pluto is the planet of the magician, after all, to become like a magician with matter. So you might be called sometimes in more extreme circumstances, let's start with the more negative, that when it starts going into your second house, that matters of finances start going, because Pluto is transformations and changes up and down. It might be that you're thrown in a situation where to survival kind of for the more basic things or for security become of great importance. So I'll tell you 2 stories. And I have 2 friends that just went through 14 years of Pluto in the second house. And the first one, the moment Pluto entered in Scorpio, she became materially obsessed. She started at the beginning of this transit because it was 14 years in Capricorn. This is the progression that happened. We were just talking a few days ago. She was saying how she's changed, but she became like materially obsessed. Money became God for her. And she was never like that before that. She was a very spiritual person. And suddenly she's like doing conniving and doing dodgy things just to have more money. And because Pluto also rules other people's money, she started attracting very wealthy men and kind of them writing her big checks, giving her, her boyfriend's big amounts of money, buying her flats. But she used manipulation to do that. It's like sometimes Pluto is ruthless, doesn't care. It just has a desire so strong that it might trample on its principles. And she became like, it spiraled out a bit, but she made a lot of money, like flats and anything, Birkin bags and bank accounts with 1,000 million or whatever. And Pluto made her very rich because of this initial intense desire. But all this kind of manipulation, because that wasn't the right way to do it, she achieved it. If you set your mind to something, if whatever house Pluto is transiting to, you can get it because this desire is strong. But what happened is that her health started going down. especially what she could eat. The second house is what you can eat. And suddenly she couldn't eat almost anything. Like allergies to foods, the food became poison to her. And for 3-4 years, she tried everything. No doctor could understand what it is. They could not. She could eat just 4 or 5 things. She was like skin and bones. So sometimes Pluto transit in the second house can manifest, like, not all the time through the 20 years, but as food, something with eating, something like, eating disorders, or something with food. The food feels more poisonous to the body. So only 4 or 5 things would not be poisonous to her, like rice and chicken and mango or something like that, or papaya. That was all, and no one could figure what it is. And she started realizing it's on an energy. She was basically struggling for her life, and suddenly money, material things stopped being, she was so obsessed not to lose material comforts, not to be materially, insecure. But she started realizing that it's on an energetic level, because no doctors could find out what it is. And she examined, look how amazing Pluto is. She examined herself, and she said, it's because I obsessed too much on money, and it's because I was not as moral with people, and because my values became too materialistic. So it changed. So she never anymore like tried to do this to her partners or whatever, and her health eating issues started improving. They're still there, but not as intense way. And she dropped, like, Pluto transformed her from crazy obsessive materialistic values, fear about, she had such, and she did it, she says, I wasn't able to do it, I just had this existential threat that I need money to survive. Suddenly it gripped her when Pluto entered her house. She was like, that's all I could worry. She said, like, I haven't had a career, I'll never have a pension, I need to provide for myself and my future, whatever, but I need money. So she was driven by this irrational fear. But Pluto helped her realize as well to this extreme, and she switched. And she sold all her Birkin bags, all her Hermes watches, whatever. She went down, like, a second house is also how you dress and your fashion sense and what you consider attractive. She went from super sexy, which is the beginning of the transit, to very simple, natural materials, because Pluto doesn't want anything that is fake as well. And just kept a few items that are good quality and so on. And she does not care about appearance. Doesn't mean she looks like the plague now. And she didn't, it's almost like she turned, her values became super spiritual. Aya says, I didn't know what I valued in my life before Pluto transited my second house. Exactly, that's what she said. She said, I didn't know what I valued. I first became obsessive. I thought I value money, then I got it, and I realized money is not what makes me. So it's like, I was very resentful of money when Pluto transited my second house. So you see, it's two extremes. Pluto is never gray, a little bit of this. Pluto is either you go obsessive over money, or you hate money, or you resent it when it transits the second, with everything, But also, if you're someone who resents money and Pluto enters your second house, and you're someone who doesn't, like, I'm above such things, Pluto will force you, no, because Pluto wants you to ultimately, it takes you to an extreme so you can realize that the golden middle is the best. So just like my friend from super, she didn't care about money at all. Pluto enters her second house. She goes gaga over material things, and then she realizes this is not the way, and she rebalances it. And she's like, she says, money is there to give me freedom, and money is as a value. The values really change, but to balance it, Pluto ultimately takes you to extreme so it can balance you. Another friend example, Pluto enters her second house. She is working suddenly in one of the biggest corporations and for the biggest cigarette maker, Philip Morris, and she's in one of the biggest positions. So she's making lots of money suddenly. And she has this, gives her a sense of power, but nothing she owns is hers. The house, the car she drives, everything belongs to the company. And she realizes that she doesn't, a few years into the transit, because it's such a long transit, she realizes that she doesn't agree with the values of the company. This is a company that poisons others. And she realizes that it's not so important for her how much money she makes, but if they're ethical. So well done to her. Again, some second house about value, what you believe, the value you put on things. And then she loses everything. She quits the job and decides that she'll have her own company. Again, working on something material to build it. But in her case, the company doesn't work well. Pluto was making opposition to her Sun, Moon, and Mercury. They in conjunction, the three of them in Cancer. So it was, exact opposition. And that's when she was trying to do her company. And there was a lot of resistance and it just didn't work. So for 2-3 years, 4-5 years, and then COVID comes and she can't find work because she organizes huge events and COVID is there. So for a few years, she had to learn to live without. And because before that, she's always lived like, ooh, everything like spending for like that. And then she realizes a few years where she doesn't have as much money, actually much more limited, that actually she feels happier. And she was like, and she starts writing instead then. And she starts realizing, I need so little. Why was I always worried? Like, I can live with so little. Again, a big change of values. And while Capricorn, South Pluto is still in the second house, she finds a really, so a lot of the interesting things are about work, employment, money, and values. She finds ultimately a career that gives her a lot of material freedom and control. And it's working from home, but doing exactly what she's great at. And her value, because her values has changed, she doesn't care about money so much anymore. But she, not that she doesn't care, but she's not fearful. Pluto removes the fear. And suddenly she starts making really, really the perfect job, and the perfect, that is way more aligned to her values, gives her a lot more control over her resources and freedom. So she's financially very stable and independent now, and it seems it's going to be for life, because she was she doesn't only work for someone, she was given power there, almost like an equal partnership. So you see, even Pluto might take you through a few twists and turns financially while it's in the second house, depending which extreme of the of the situation is. I read somewhere that second house represents the second marriage. Could Pluto impact this? Yes, second house is the 8th from the 7th. Good call. So if the 7th is here, the 8th is the end of something and the rebirth of it. So the end of your first marriage is the 8th, and the rebirth of it, which is a next marriage, is the 2nd. So interestingly enough, the first girl I told you about, when Pluto was transiting her second house, she met her second marriage partner and they're still married. Pluto was making a lot of aspects from there as well, but yeah, good call. But Pluto in Aquarius, sometimes it can also mean someone can, so removing toxic foods from your life can be a big thing, becoming very particular and focused on what you eat as well, like removing toxic substances and chemicals that you put. Like both of my friends went with ocean pools and everything without any chemicals inside, because they started feeling very sensitive towards, because second house is anything material, they started both feeling very sensitive to any toxic materials. And anything toxic that you put in your body. So my other friend that I was talking about, she didn't have food allergies, so anything the opposite. She was a big meat eater. She stopped eating meat, and she said her life transformed so much. She's almost vegan now. She removed cigarettes, so it kind of helps you get a lot of material things that are toxic out of your life. I got obsessive about learning about the chemicals and the additives input and substances going through this transit. Absolutely, Alia, that's a very, look what a great positive manifestation of Pluto in the second house. Absolutely, that's, my husband is born with Pluto in the second house, whole sign. It's like we're going to shop for something and he's reading everything. Look, it says sustainably produced. That means that there is GMO products. Okay, he knows everything. So yes, and he had a weird relationship with money, but he's like, he was trying to control it too much, and he was like, but he's breaking through that. But so that's not something that Pluto in second does naturally. Fasting with Pluto in second control, absolutely, you can do that. This is my husband does crazy fasts. He is born with Pluto in the 7 in Scorpio. He goes 7 days without eating anything, just water. I'm like, how is that possible? So also it can be your teeth and surgeries, and also the Venus is more the thyroid rather than the second house, but the Volk here, this part of the area of the body, but Pluto is there so long, I'm not going to tell you something. You need to have something there for it. All right, so your Pluto is in Virgo. How will this affect you? You mean it will be transiting your second house, but it's natally in Virgo? So it means it's coming from the 9th house. Oh, 9th house is the house of, so Pluto in your natal chart is in the 9th, and it's going to be transiting the 2nd. There might be something connected to values and belief systems. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. They're very different. Knowledge and learning about money, about resources, about gardening. Oh, again, second house can be gardening and money and growing your own food. You can become obsessed and very interested about such topics. Even careers that a second house can be strong during Pluto for 20 years. You can make an impact in society if Pluto is transiting your second house. For all of you who Pluto is transiting their second house, impact in society through anything connected to the second house, through career connected to Bitcoin, connected to resources, to money, to growing food, to the beauty industry, hairdressers, anyone who works with the 5 senses, with beauty, with music, because Aquarius is is the sign of society. So how can you contribute to society? Well, Pluto is in Aquarius through the second house, through awareness about food, through awareness about resources, through awareness of all of those second house things that we talked about, values. Okay. And second house is the larynx, your voice. You can either get no, it's too long. It's like I haven't noticed anything like with the voice happening to friends, unless you have a planet in Aquarius there. So you might lose your voice for a bit or something. Yeah, or, you know, extreme cases, some kind of. But no, the Aquarius for the illnesses and kind of stuff, you look at the signs. They're the body parts. So Aquarius is, you know, anything connected to the nervous system, to the lymph, to the circulation. Sorry, not the lymph, the nervous system, the circulation, the brain, and so on. Now, if Pluto will be transiting your 3rd house, so it means you're most likely Sagittarius rising, or if it will pass the 3rd house cusp, that's very supportive. Pluto will be sextiling Sagittarius, your ascendant, most likely. So that's not most likely, but yeah. So that's, it's kind of like looking at you with a sextile. So you can, interestingly enough, you can be involved, because 3rd house is very social house, and so is Aquarius. So you would notice that a lot more Aquarian, not Aquarian, but Plutonian-like people enter your life socially. You would not probably be interested in superficial friendships and socializing only. You start noticing that your interests and your thought processes are becoming deeper, and that that you are becoming way more perceptive psychologically others in communications, and you're going to start notice the power of your words. And if you're someone who doesn't speak out or whatever, Pluto will somehow bring it out of you, so you can, so you can become, you can find out your own voice, your own power of communication. Or if you're someone who uses words to manipulate others or to abuse others, Pluto can intensify these tendencies. Or if you use words in a not thoughtful way where you can hurt others, you'd really strongly notice that. So you learn to mind how you communicate. You'd learn to be more deliberate about your communication, like scorpionic energy, like more, because words and self-talk, how you talk to yourself, has such power, and that's what you're exploring for 20 years. And once you realize it for yourself, how important it is, your internal mental dialogue and narrative, how do you talk to yourself? Do you call yourself bad names? Do you think I was dark and negative? And this can intensify at the beginning till you realize that it's too extreme. Pluto always takes you to one extreme and more darker thought processes. And then you're like, no, powers and words and thoughts have power. And you'll start noticing if you're hurting with your words others, it will become way more obvious around you. So you are asked to use power, words and communications to empower others, to uplift others, rather than some people might use them to, okay, I'm just telling them the truth, but sometimes it can smash people. To be more mindful of how you communicate. But if someone is always being nice and never saying what they think, now that's the other extreme. Pluto transiting their third house, it will teach them how to own your words and speak them out without fear of what others will say, without fear of if people say, oh, they're not nice, they're not agreeable, and so on. So if either extremes, Pluto will correct. And my dad has Pluto in his third house natally. So he can smash with words. He can destroy me with words. And he can build me up again with words, often within one sentence. His words are so heavy on me. So be careful, because while Pluto transits the third house, you can literally destroy someone with words. And if you're but though there's strong repercussions as well, Pluto will show you that. And especially if you're a conscious, normal person, you'll be like, wow, I really hurt this person. Wow, that I have to be careful what I say, because I can put myself in trouble as well. So Pluto wants to help you control those impulses and control and use more words more consciously, more deliberately, or how you talk to yourself, what thoughts you let in, because Pluto can make your thought patterns manifest more powerfully now. You know how they say you become what you think, or how thoughts become reality? Well, Pluto is the magician. And your thoughts will be so concentrated and powerful now, you'll realize, be careful what you wish for, be careful what you're thinking about, because it will start manifesting faster and more intensely. So the ultimate goal and the ultimate result of those transits is that you are left with more control, more deeper self-communication expression, more deliberate communication expression, more mindful, more thoughtful communication. And actually, some of you that are called for it can do some amazing things through this third house during those 20 years. Some of you can do something incredible with media, with writing. Someone can find their voice to write books. Like my friend who is Sagittarius, she's incredible at writing, Sagittarius rising. And I thought you're gonna write books when Pluto is in your third house, in the third. She already has such an amazing, and she says, like, she's already feeling it, Pluto in the third house. She says, I'm feeling drawn to write about topics that touch the soul, which is Pluto, also more occult topics, also about taboo topics. So you might read or write or just be interested. Third house is your interest, what you like to read, think about, more Plutonian things, deeper things, life after death, sex, abuse, those kind of topics that people are afraid to talk about. Or you might just watch more, start getting obsessed reading crime books or documentaries about that, or research anything to do with hidden, forbidden, or do some of you might be doing scientific research. Third house is amazing with information and facts, and Pluto is amazing at digging. So that's definitely interested in undermining the system. Oh yeah, reading conspiracy theories, how to undermine the system, how to help humanity. So some of yours can really contribute to humanity through third house activities, writing a blog, making videos, talking to others about such topics. You might be the one invited to parties that talks about the deep things and conspiracies and astrology. And well, everyone wants to talk about superficial things. But you can transform society and community through careers connected to the third house. First of all, because your voice will be impactful and powerful, your words will be heard. So that can be like, as I said, media, or you can get just even involved in careers that are about sifting through information, or careers that are involved with messaging, with writing, with sales pitches as well. Wow, you can do probably very manipulative, insightful sales pitches and such. It can be with, as well with, I mean, third house is marketing, advertising. Someone I know just had Pluto transit in third house, and she had multiple affairs during this time. It's moving into Pluto in the fourth house, and it's getting a divorce. Is third house associating with divorce affairs, so is that a coincidence? I think it might be a coincidence. Depends what aspects Pluto was doing from there. I wouldn't necessarily do it with that. I wouldn't connect it to that, unless Pluto was from there, like making aspects to other planets. In my horoscope, I wrote, the way you think will become the blueprint that others will want to follow. Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you, Nirvana. Exactly. The way you think will become the blueprint that others want to follow. You can impact others, social media, whatever, images, doesn't matter. You can also do some business. Pluto is, third house is very business. You can come and find your power and contribute to the world through some business. Anything that society will needs. Pluto can help you have a grasp and understanding on all the skills needed for a business, all the administrative and so on. And third house is sales and whatever, and connecting with others. So that's great if you're doing anything like that. You can also become very kind of passionate and obsessed with acquiring new skills. Skills. So that's something to do, and maybe hobbies, you know. Overall, third house is a lighthouse, but what will help is like hobbies, small groups, go activities with small groups. But we have here, and you can achieve a lot, something powerful when you're in a group, like say you work with 2-3 people on some project or whatever. But if Pluto is making hard aspect from the third house, guess what? Power struggles with siblings, with relatives, with colleagues, with schoolmates. My son is born with Pluto in the third house, and it fools him. Oh, from the moment he was born, his sister became his nemesis. Third house rules sisters, but it's like at both extremes. He's obsessed with her, he loves her, and then he hates her. Like the black and white, it's incredible how Pluto always is never in the middle, never lukewarm. Like either loves her or will kill her, but he can't live without her. He searches, like even if she's gone for 5 minutes, Lila, where are you? So you might develop such kind of a fascination to someone in social environments, love-hate relationships with brothers and siblings. or relatives or teammates and workmates. There can be some power struggle happening there, but also there can be some undercurrents, because you see Pluto rules the 12th house from Sagittarius rising. It goes into the 3rd house. There can be some kind of intrigues or something that is a little bit more karmic happening there behind the scenes with people in your environment, underhanded kind of actions. So especially if Pluto is making a hard aspect while transiting this 3rd house. Or another way it can play out, if it's not making any aspects or more harmonious ones or whatever, it's more like soulmates coming in your life, but not in the form of lovers, more like in the form 12th house, someone you had connections with in past lifetimes, in the form of mates and colleagues, someone that you associate to work with, in the case of friends and people around you. But yeah, epic battles with neighbors can happen, power struggles. If you're at school, be careful. My son, we get called often from school because Pluto is a planet that doesn't want to obey. It wants to do its own thing. And he just watches the teacher, watches her like a prey, and pounces to do something that he wants, So kind of, you have to have like more strategic approach with people. But of course, there can be some more manipulative people that appear around you that are trying to, as soon as Pluto crossed my 3rd house cusp, my neighbor passed away suddenly. Yeah, it's funny. It can be something so that doesn't, 3rd house is not necessarily, hopefully it's not a brother or sibling that passes or whatever, but it can be a neighbor that passes. It can be neighbors that come that smoke cigarettes all day outside, and it comes into your windows and it's like, or just listening to music loud, then you start some power struggle with them or whatever. Or it can be even more Plutonian people around you in a positive way, people that are interested in the occult, in spirituality, that are interested in deeper topics, not just superficial connections. Another astrologer said that when Pluto transits your 3rd house, a sibling can pass. My brother will have this transit on the sibling. Don't worry, Jess. People can pass all the time, but it's unless your brother has indications that their sibling, they'll lose their sibling young in their horoscope, Pluto's not going to trigger it. So it's unless he has the ruler of the 3rd house with Pluto in the 12th house or 8th house with a lot of hard aspects and so on. But usually it might just also mean some power struggles with the sibling. Or it can mean that you, because you're the sibling, are going through big transformation somehow. Or he can be just going through some things in transforming his environment, changing friends, it can be something as innocent like that. But again, like study, read, talk about Plutonian things, it can be something that you're very interested in. You can write books or teach about such Plutonian things, psychology, astrology, the forbidden, the occult, uncomfortable topics as well, occult topics, very deep psychological topics. And you can be someone who is called to say things as they are, to bring out the information, to bring out the dirty, to show the underbelly of certain problems and to call out on such things. It will square my sun, so likely you'll be going through some transformations. You can check so many Scorpio rising people that had Saturn transiting their 3rd house. Did their sibling die? I doubt it. Okay, so Pluto going through the 4th house. Did we say everything about the 3rd house? I think so. No, Nirvana had it. Nope, nobody died from my siblings. I had Pluto. Okay, let me give you an example. because all my planets, I have 4 planets, Sun, Venus, Mars, and Mercury in my 3rd house. So Pluto's been squaring them for 6 years, basically nonstop. So of course, my 3rd house got triggered. So I can tell you a lot about Pluto affecting the 3rd house. It was my communication, how it changed. I told you, with all those planets in the 3rd house, I was social. I had social anxiety. You see, I'm an anxious person. I could not speak to people. People would greet me and I would turn around. I think I developed short-sightedness only so I don't have to say hi to people, and I had an excuse. And I had such anxiety that I would get overwhelmed. Like I can't go to a store and ask. I was too shy to ask things. If I didn't like anything, I would not say to anyone. And Pluto squared all my planets in the 3rd house, and watch me now. I am gonna tell you what, well, still have something, but I'm gonna tell you what I think, and I'm not in a way to hurt you, but I'm gonna be honest, and I can go and speak to people and make videos and communicate. But the other thing is that my brothers were going through some when Pluto was squaring my planet in my 3rd house. Exactly, that's when my brother got divorced. So he went through a big change. But while Pluto was still squaring Mercury in my 3rd house, so activating the 3rd house, it was quite, he got divorced. It was quite violent. His wife was chasing him, ex-wife, with a knife, apparently. But at the same time, he met the love of his life changed, he went to live in another country, and our relationship has been very bonded, actually, despite of Pluto affecting the 3rd house. It became with a hard aspect, because there were my brother, and while the last time Pluto squared the planet in my 3rd house, I discovered I have another brother. And I absolutely love him. And it was a shock for me. For a month, I was stupefied. But so it doesn't have to be. Actually, a brother didn't die. I gained a brother with Pluto square a sibling. Someone had that. My husband lost his sister when Pluto was in his 3rd house whole sign. Yeah, but it is one of the most extreme manifestation, or it can be a mate or a friend. Usually 3rd house, it might be someone as well in your environment, close everyday environment, that they're, that people leave, and that your social environment changes in a I got the rebirth part. Wait till it transits my ascendant. I don't know. I'll tell you what will happen then. Now, Pluto going through the 4th house. That would be if your ascendant is Scorpio, most likely, but you might have a ascendant somewhere else. You might have it in Libra or in Sagittarius, and Pluto might be on the 4th house cusp, might be in Aquarius. So pay attention, especially when Pluto is close to the 4th house cusp, or is making aspect while in this 4th house to other planets. I've got a few examples, but that will be big changes in your personal life. In extreme cases, let's get out of the way the hardest thing. A parent, family member can pass away. My husband just had that. No one passed away, actually. A big transformation, 2 kids were born. So, and a loss of a pregnancy of the wife. So the 4th house is your family life, your personal life. If you're married, it's your whole family life, and directly affects also the marriage and so on. So big changes there. Oftentimes when Pluto crosses exactly the IC, people will change where they live. And like it happened for my husband, during those 2 years, we bought two properties in Bulgaria, and we would go between, and a lot of transformations. So we move every few months, Bulgaria, America, Bulgaria. So there is constant transformations on the home front with family. And there was some power struggles with family members. Yes, that was for sure when Pluto was exactly transiting. So this is something you can, and Annie says, hi, yep, I'm moving to New York. and I relocate from New York to British Columbia. Oh, you'll be my neighbor in May. So Anya will have it in the 4th house. Wow, amazing. So while Pluto is transiting that 4th sign from your ascendant, or where the icy is, there can be not just one move. It can be quite often, not often, but every few years even. There's transformation. So you might be like Pluto transit on the cusp, you change something at the house or move, and then you start doing repairs. So it's a perfect time, for example, to Pluto likes to give life to something else. Buy a fixer-upper, fix it, make it a project, 20-year project. You can fix the toilet one year, another year you can add another, whatever. You can sometimes make a lot of money, because it's Pluto after all. It's one of the planets of money and other people's money. If you're doing such kind of fixer-uppers, renting, selling, buying property, real estate, land, and so on. Is the Aquarius Pluto transit opposite natal Pluto something to look for? Yes, that's kind of initiation. You'll feel that psychologically. It's a very Plutonian time. It's a bit like Saturn return, but like a Pluto return. And it will affect the house Pluto is transiting in the opposite one. I'll move to the 4th house now. So definitely it might be one great remedy is do some home repairs around that time. Have a long-standing home repair project. And another thing to do is when Pluto is in the 4th house is people might start working with psychology or working with their psyche and their subconscious and releasing family patterns, family karma. They can start digging deep and delving into how the feelings are connected to your health, how the feelings and early family history and early childhood is connected to your current state, and to reprogram, to transform that and to release. So it's a bit more introspective transit. There is a bit more digging into the past. Transformation doesn't always need digging into the past. But in this case, for Scorpio, because Pluto rules them, if it's their rising, and being in the 4th house, basically Scorpio rising people. And if your 4th house is in Aquarius, there'll be some digging, because Pluto wants to dig. 4th house is the past, to reframe, to see somehow when Pluto was squaring the rule of my 4th house, I had family constellations, and I really reframed the past about my family. So I no longer hold grudges, as and that's released a big. You realize something, and you release a lot of pent-up feelings. I just had a friend of mine, she's very spiritual, very noble person, and Pluto is transiting her 4th house. And she said like all the dirt of her family broke loose from ancestry, family. She says like, it's like it, she didn't explain what exactly happened, because it's just crossing her icy, her 4th house cusp now. She says, but she says like, a lot of family secrets came out to the surface, and a lot of family, and she feels like the whole family ganged up on her somehow. And she had to dig deep and find forgiveness. And so there can be sometimes such experiences. For my husband was more like finding secrets about his early childhood and before he was born, because we started living with his mom when Pluto transited his 4th house. And there were some power struggles there. There still are occasionally, but he found out so many things, because he didn't grow up with his mom. And he found out so many things he didn't know. He didn't react. He didn't tell me anything. If I asked him, how did Pluto in your 4th house transit? Oh, okay. But oh boy, the things that he found out, definitely, he said they impacted him, but he didn't say it out. So it's like a private experience that you go through. Oh yeah, Radi, you started constellations. That's amazing when Pluto transits the 4th house, but you can't do it 20 years of family constellations. You can actually work that. You can start doing this while Pluto transits your 4th house. But you can also work something with property, real estate, investments, and so on, especially if Pluto, because for my husband, Pluto did a lot of nice aspects from the 4th house. So maybe that's why, family, property and so on. A family constellation is very fascinating, Aurora. It's very Scorpionic, very Plutonian thing. It's a psychological tool. So you gather with 7, 8 people, and everyone takes a role of a different person in your life. And they're almost like psychically, even though they're not psychic, they can play the roles of each family member, and they're allowed to do whatever they feel. And such things come out. It's incredible. But yes, so when Pluto, 4th house, has transit, oh my God, transiting a planet in the 4th house. One after another, plumbing issues. Every toilet, we go to a hotel because my husband is having Pluto transit through the 4th house. Even in the hotel, plumbing issues. In every house, plumbing issues. We both are going through a lot of Pluto transit. So it's some leaking. Now we have a hole in the kitchen. And the bathroom is on top and it's leaked. We have a hole in the ceiling in the kitchen where it's dripping. So it's been nonstop. So that's very Plutonian for you to know. Infestations, very good. Black mold, be careful with Pluto. We found also some black mold around. Toxicity in your environment in the house, pay attention. Sometimes I've seen a very extreme case, but I saw someone who had Pluto transiting their 4th house, and they were forced to move out because there was some to move out and even sell their house for way less money than it's worth because there was some kind of a pollution in the area. And another person had a cataclysm destroy their house, and they thought, oh, it's lost, you know, was it some flood or whatever? I'm not sure. But actually, it turned out really great because they found a much better plot of land. So destroy and rebuild, they actually built not just the house, but the Airbnb there. And they said, it's so much better. I'm so happy because they got money from insurance after the destruction. So that would be a good idea if Pluto is transiting your 4th house. If you have a property, insure it because you can gain from that if something happens. Definitely. And because something might happen there. And so perpetual changes, places of living, not perpetual, but they can be changes, definitely, because transformations all the time. Of course, power struggles with parents, likely. Oh my God. We've been all the time going through that. I'm like, I want Pluto to get out of your 4th house. So we'll start fighting with our parents. Does house problems always happen? I'll be in Airbnb before being a house property, before owning. Oh, well, we had plumbing. Would you include the house that planet rules also? Yes, do that. If you can combine it, okay, I can try. So the rule of the 1st goes into the 4th, if your ascendant is Scorpio, of course. And that's more like the person gets very much involved because Pluto is you, if you're Scorpio rising. So you get very much involved into family, into understanding your feelings and emotions, making transformations at home and on the psychological level. You're searching for inner contentment and happiness. You're learning how to balance your emotions. But initially, it can start with very extreme emotions. The 4th house is the house of feelings. So you can start feeling like, oh, waves of up, waves of down. Sometimes it can be like anxiety and you don't know where it is. It might be something hormonal, but it's about strong amplitudes of feelings, strong amplitudes. And the ultimate goal of this transit for everyone whose Pluto is transiting their 4th house, the evolutionary spiritual goal is to learn to have better control and grasp of your emotions and to be able to switch and move from one feeling to another faster. And those extremes to kind of balance them out, or to be able by personal desire to move from this feeling to this feeling, from this feeling to that feeling. That's why it's a very spiritual trans. And if you're Scorpio rising in particular, you might be very much invested in settling down, starting a family, or doing some new big changes there in some way, being invested in 4th house careers, like, you know, catering, Airbnb, taking care of children, parenting. That's a new role you can have. Everyone who's Pluto is transiting the fourth house, it can be parenting. They have to parent someone, or being nurturing professions and careers. So more psychological. Fourth house is very much psychology, house of psychology, to do psychological, to investigation, family consultations with others, exploring such careers. So even doing psychological astrology, for example. I have Pluto in the fourth house natally, and I have a very difficult childhood. Oh, yes, Jess, I've seen that. Very unsettled. Also spent my whole life struggling to find a place to call home. I've only achieved this in the last 18 months, and now I'm 40. Wow, it's great. Yeah, since my husband started Pluto transiting his fourth house, we don't know what to call home. We don't know where home is. I feel home is here, there. It can be a bit unsettling, but the hardest thing for my husband was when Pluto in the fourth sign from ascendant opposed his sun. So when that happened, his favorite aunt died, family member who was like a mom to him. His dog died, a family member, and his wife left him, his previous wife. So there was like this big change there that all happened within, when it rains, it pours, within less than 6 months of each other. That was very extreme, but at the same time, while Pluto was still in the fourth house, he started a family, he settled down, he had 2 children, became a father, bought properties and so on. So, it's a very long period. So sometimes there might be some of the more difficult Plutonian things, but again, they lead to a good thing after that. They lead to, he said that his values as family became so important. And during that period, that he went through all of that, even before he met me, he gave himself a promise to be the best parent and the best husband and in personal life, and to make his personal life priority. And that's what he's done. He's dedicated himself to the personal life. And now Pluto entered his fifth house, he has to dedicate to a child. So we'll see. What if Pluto from the first house will be squaring my sun in the fourth? Yes, so, and the sun rules the seventh. So because Pluto is in your first house, because you're doing something, you're changing, that can push you to move, to live somewhere else, to make some changes in your family. And that might involve your marriage, depending if you're married or not. That can involve a partner as well. But you're changing in some way. We're going through big, you might have a power struggle with a partner or whatever. And in the family environment because of how you're changing. So they might be resisting that, or, but there's some kind of such game that is happening there. Or that because you're changing, you're making a big change, you can move your family, and that can affect your relationship as well. I lost one of my dogs suddenly when Pluto squared my IC. Oh yeah, even the square aspect. I'm so sorry, Emily. Okay. Now, Pluto going through the fifth house. That's if you're Libra rising, if we're using whole sign house system, but that's definitely sextile trine. So that can be very helpful as well, because Pluto is empowering with the trine, is empowering the path that Libra is walking on. So that's going to be very much about finding oneself. This is one of the self houses, the fifth one. It's one of the solar houses, the self. So it's very much about finding your similar to Pluto transiting the first, but with some changes. It's not as intense as the first, but there is certain transformations that are happening on a deep level to you and to your self-awareness of who you are. This is one of the self-growth houses, the houses where you can unfold your talents. You can become more aware of your natural talents. And you have 20 years to explore that, guys. Maybe you are shy and not putting yourself in the public, or maybe you're not clear about what you're passionate about. Well, now Pluto will help you clarify it. You can develop some even obsession and passion towards some kind of a hobby or interest or talent of yours. And even change society, influence and change society by some natural talent you have, some natural creation that you do. You can create a business, you can create anything that you're naturally passionate about. And some people might say, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Well, Pluto will help you. You would explore some deep passions, some deep interests there, and talents. Some hidden talents will come to the surface. So you can see what it's peeling another layers of the onion when Pluto transits the 5th house of your untrue self into your true self. My sister-in-law just had Pluto through her 5th house. And for her, she gained a lot of real understanding and growth about herself through the romantic relationships. Her romantic life was a little bit up and downs for those 15 years. So there was some more intense experiences in her romantic life. There was one very toxic person. There was another person who, and there were power struggles with. So she learned through going through some more intense and, let's say, sometimes even unwholesome relationships and dating. And while Pluto was still in the 5th house, she finally learned what is a healthy relationship. So she first went through the unhealthy, more toxic ones, very passionate, but now she, at the end of this, it doesn't mean for you to happen at the end, but she has again, there is power struggles there, but it's much healthier relationship. And this is the love of her life now. They've been together for 3 years now, 4 years. So this is something important that can happen. But Pluto is there like 20 years. It doesn't mean you'll be in constant power struggles with relationships, but you truly find your strength through some kind of a romantic relationship, some of you. And the romantic relationships that come there, and if you're in a romantic relationship or marriage or whatever, that is not true soul connections, these usually go away. These usually escalate into power struggles, into kind of more extreme behaviors, obsessions, compulsions, or resentments, and they're removed. Well, if you're in a good relationship, it can deepen. It can become more erotic, more sexual, but it will transform. There might be some crisis through the romantic side of the relationship initially that you have to address and transform and explore the sexuality there, the intimacy, if it's interrupted, to restart it. Otherwise, there might be someone else that appears that you're more interested in, someone that has more like a mystical pull on your exciting, forbidden fruit pool. Let's see how this will affect us forever single people, Bella. The forever single people, maybe that's when you're no longer forever single, because Pluto transforms, like if it's gone to one extreme, like forever single, it can turn this around so that you're not. I got rid of codependence when Pluto was in my 5th house. You said it so well, Raina. This is what I was trying to explain with my sister-in-law in-law. She stopped this codependent cycle of unhealthy attachment. Major transformation of all my relationships. Codependency cannot survive with Pluto around. Thank you. Guys, you should lead that. I never had Pluto transit in 5th house, so you should lead that webinar. I had another friend who Pluto was transiting the 5th for her, and she was dating 3 different Arabic guys, Arab Pluto something, who were like sheikhs, so that was another way, is like oligarchs or whatever, sheikhs that manifested for her. Just don't date a criminal or someone deranged, someone. But you might also, your love life can involve a bit of spicing up as well, exploring more taboo, more whatever you. I'm not going to be giving you ideas. I'm not Natalia Kubilkina. you go and. I was married only once, have been single to 25 years, and then now it might be the time you find someone, Rebecca. It might not be the first frog you kiss, but it might be, there is a long period, but when it crosses especially when it's making a strong aspect from there, or any kind of aspect, it can be very important. Oh my God, I just moved to an Arab country, Pluto in my 9th house. Ah, there you go. Pluto in your 9th house. There you go. It's been part of what you're supposed to do now. So ultimately, Pluto in the 5th house wants to teach you and the soul evolution how to express, give, and receive love in a healthy way. And how to as well, it wants you to discover your true passions and to peel a few layers of your fake self. So sometimes it can even give, because it's Aquarius, the sign Pluto will transit, you can change and impact society through your creative projects, through your own personal ideas. 5th house is anything that is your own personal original ideas. You can turn a passion into something that brings even wealth. Some might even get some kind of a fame of some sort in the society. And because 5th house is connected to performance, to creativity, to building your own business, and so on, to being the best, to shining. And if you have stage fright, Pluto might ask you to transform that somehow. Can it bring fame, Lada? Yeah, that's what I was saying. No matter what aspect is making from there, because Aquarius is a sign that reaches many people, 5th house is performance, shining, people noticing your uniqueness, noticing your knowledge. The 5th house is very much a house of knowledge as well. With the 9th, it's your knowledge, your uniqueness, your unique style, something that stands out and that people follow, for example. From evolutionary astrology point of view, it wants to help you to learn how to self-validate and express your creative self-actualization. Beautifully said. Express your creative self-actualization. My husband had a vibrational reading, and I told him his highest vibration was creativity. And I'm like, what? Creativity? He doesn't have a single creative bone. And now when Pluto enters his 5th house, I'm buying paints and whatever. I want to see his creativity. It's time to unfold. And so, yes, this is what your self-expression, unique voice, unique self-expression. And it's 5th house is a fire house, naturally. And it's about finding who you are, your unique expression, like we said. It's about, and it's also very much about not following others, but following your own intuition, understanding it deeply. Now, some of the more negative sides is power struggles with children. Some children of yours going through difficult periods. I'll never say your child will die or anything like that. That's, you cannot say such things, and it's not true. But you might be going through your children might be going through some, especially if Pluto is making hard aspect while transiting the 5th house, through some challenging period. You have to be there for them. Or it might be a time when you get pregnant, Pluto transiting the 5th house, where you totally change. Say if you've always wanted to have children, Pluto enters the 5th house, and you'll be like, you might not want to have, or the opposite. You never wanted to have children. Pluto transits your 5th, and you're like, baby fever. Or you might even work with children or in something educational. Or you can, something to do with becoming very passionate, either about a hobby or about a private, or about something to do with your children, very dedicated there, committing a lot to them. Or it can also sometimes, in extreme cases, can mean forbidden affairs. So something that's forbidden attracts you. So, or extreme sports of some sorts, some kind of, so you have to find other channels to do it. Both of my kids left me and went to their father, to my surprise, when Pluto transited the 5th. Yeah, it can be something like that. It can be, I'm knocking on wood. but yeah, they might be leaving home and have grown enough, and there might be some power struggles in you that you want to make a big change there, that they're going through a big change, that you're very involved in this processes as well. All right. So that's the fifth house. Your creative self-expression, more of your true self will come out, definitely. And it's more about peeling everything that is blocking your light from shining in your ability to enjoy life on a deep level, to feel passion and enjoyment of life again. Pluto will do it with any means necessary, through crisis, but it wants you after that to be happier. That's the ultimate, the highest manifestation of fifth house is to be happy, to be connected to spirit, to be connected to your true self, to be connected to inspiration. So any toxicity, dirt, or confusion and untruthful manifestations of who you are will be peeled in a painful or not so painful matters. Oh, yes, major happiness came out to my surprise. Yes, yes, yes. Also, it can be ways of you restructuring how you, or totally transforming how you have fun. So if it's within some unhealthy ways, like drinking too much or whatever, Pluto will make you really reconsider if it's anything toxic, to remove it, or anything too indulgent. Play the lottery, that's a good thing. Fifth house is games of chance. Pluto, especially if you happen to have Jupiter in Aquarius already, or some other planets there in your fifth house, Pluto can really, you might have some karmic good luck in games of chance if you play. Also, you can make some big losses or big gains. Again, we can't say which one, depends on the aspects Pluto will make on the stock market or in any kind of investment, suddenly, Bitcoins or whatever, because fifth house rules such kind of a speculative investments that it's a bit like gambling, isn't it? And of course, you might get stalkerish in relationships with partners, obsessive a bit. They can get obsessive over you. Such themes can be a bit, for a little bit, for part of the experience. Okay, let's take a little bit of break because my brain is starting to mix things. And we'll come back in 5 minutes and continue with the other houses. I love that everyone is writing what happened when Pluto passed their house. Thank you so much. Because I haven't had a direct experience to many houses. I've watched clients, but they never, I haven't done readings in 4 years. So I'm just watching people in my life now. So thank you for contributing. I think we went in 1 hour. So Pluto transiting through. So the fifth house is about self-empowerment, self-growth a lot. It's a self-house. Sixth house, that would be usually for vulgarizing people, or if you have a planet in the sixth house that Pluto is triggering, it can activate it for short. That's very much about its material house. So it will be a lot about your work and about your work environment. And if you're working in a place that is not truly authentic to you, if you don't like it, you'd start hating it when Pluto is in the sixth house. And a lot of things will appear to point you to that, like jealous colleagues or malpractices or some kind of attacks even. And it's a big sign that you have to change something there, the service that you're giving to the world. You have to change something with your work. The wife of my brother just passed through Pluto in her sixth house. And when it first entered there, she got, she's been basically, she divorced to her husband, and The divorce was not, it happened before that, but suddenly she found herself that she has to work. And she's always worked for her husband. They had a dentist clinic. And suddenly she finds herself in very limiting circumstances where the first 1-2 years of this transit, she's like barely making both ends meet. And she gets very serious and decides to take a credit. And sixth house is also connected in Vedic astrology with taking a credit or whatever, debt, and opens her own clinic. So suddenly she becomes from this person who survives on 500 euros with 2 little kids. She starts making 40 to 50,000 euros per month, so it's like suddenly she becomes the boss of her own clinic, and she gets empowered through the work that she has. Not only empowered, but a lot of money came to her at the same time. And Pluto from her 6th house was making a lot of trines, though, to her 10th house planets in Taurus. So, and that was one of the things that really helped. But she became like empowered through, and 6th house is medical career as well. So she was exactly in the right place. And empowered, and because she always felt like she can't cope with the material realities of life alone. But Pluto enters the 6th house, she's forced into it whether she wants to know, and she gets so empowered by it. But throughout those 14 years, so it's been 10 years her owning that clinic, Pluto made also a few some stressful aspects. And exactly when Pluto made a stressful aspect to her moon from there, her main doctor basically did something very underhanded. He stole half of her clients, and because he had access to the database, took it. So something kind of, even something negative plutonic can happen, especially during hard aspects. So we trust with employees, so people at work. And she went through this 1 year of crisis where she was very fearful. But again, if you're a good, honest, moral person, if you, you weather this period in her clinic again, the right clients came, even though half of them had left, new ones came. So big like ups and downs through the career sphere. Then COVID came, so they couldn't operate. They were not allowed to do, they had to diminish operations. So there were a lot of big transformations there, ups and downs as well. But ultimately, that she says it's been very empowering because she saw what she's capable career-wise, what she's capable of herself to sustain, to maintain herself. And where can we find the recording? I'll send it to you guys. I'll send you the recording on the email with which you paid. And the recording of the first webinar must have been sent as well. Or you can write to AstroLada UK, still with this email, at Gmail. And if you can't find it in your things, my brother will send it to you. So yeah, they can be sometimes, it's basically she experienced the full range of 6th house things from during those many years, but ultimately she felt that she has things in control, and no matter what happens, she can survive from her own materially, not only survive and thrive, and whatever wrenches were thrown to her through colleagues or employees, she overcame that. And she even now is done it to a level where her daughter will take over and actually when Pluto now exits, because Pluto will be in the 6th house again most of 2023, part of 24, and fully enters in 25, I think. So that's when she's thinking of actually giving it and retiring. So she's like, it might be when Pluto finishes with the 6th house, some of you might be ending with that career, retiring or whatever. So making some big change there as well. Sometimes I've seen people, some big transformation. If they've always been working, Pluto can be like retirement or change of a career. But you have to work something you like. Otherwise, this Pluto in the 6th house can feel very difficult. But if now it's so important for you to find something you're very passionate about in your career and to give it your all. And you can see amazing results. And because Aquarius is a social sign, you can contribute a lot to society through your work, whatever it is. And finding the true work that you're meant to do. And fields of medical, of healing, of anything to do with helping people in unbalanced situations as well, it can be great. But any kind of work is the sixth house. Laser work, wonderful. Aquarius rules lasers, such kind of wave technologies. That's a good idea. And they can be, and it might not be just one job that you'll do for 20 years. They can be, every time Pluto makes an aspect, then you might be changing the work environment, the place of work, and so on. But you might be in some holistic field. You might get very passionate about learning about nutrition, the chemical compositions of things, supplements. You can become very passionate about working out, or even spreading information. Aquarius to spread information and knowledge about anything holistic health. And you might be very interested in topics regarding, sixth house deals also with topics of inequality of any sort. The sick, the poor, the marginalized, those that are on the receiving end of some injustice, those that are in a more victimized state. You might be interested in such topics as well. And just another thing to be careful, though, if there is any self-medicating behaviors, Pluto can intensify them, and you have to be a bit more careful of medicine that you take, that you don't poison yourself with some of them, because Pluto has this a bit more poisonous energy. But that can be a great time to do some kind of cleansing again, just like Pluto through the first house and the second house as well, through some kind of fasting, cleansing, purifying routines and regimes that you adopt. Because the sixth house is very much about daily routines, how we take care of our health, how we maintain it. Work with animals, fantastic. Pluto in the sixth house. Sometimes when Pluto transits the sixth house cusp, might be an animal passing away that you love, or some of you might decide to become farmers, Pluto in the sixth house, and have their own animals. Pluto is about survival. Sixth house is about taking care of the needs for the body and to survive, making food and such stuff, Sixth house, though, as I said, sometimes they can be, especially around work environment situations, some tensions that I warned you around that you have to overcome with employees, with workmates. I had a friend who is Leo rising, and she had Pluto through her sixth house, and she actually, all those years, she stopped working because she had children, and she decided that that's the most important work for her. And she concentrated on that, and Pluto is just about to leave her sixth house, and she started working again. But she's always before that been working, but then instead swapped it, changed it. I'm a Virgo rising and sun in Pisces, hence I will have Saturn opposing my ascendant. Oh yeah, and conjunct the sun, plus Pluto approaching. I don't know what this will change. I think you'd feel a lot more Saturn than Pluto. Pluto from the sixth house doesn't do direct aspect to the first house, but Saturn over your sun, opposite your ascendant in the seventh house, that will be the thing that you'll feel immediately will be the Saturn in the seventh house. And it will be about restructuring relationships, putting barrier, seething through who are the right people for you. But otherwise, Pluto in the sixth house is about truly finding that one thing to do that you can contribute to society, and through which also it can be some kind of a mission for some of you to bring out to the surface any inequalities. This is sixth house, and to bring attention to the needs of those that are marginalized, to the needs of those that are disenfranchised and so on, about such topics. I like the transits from no work to work. It's what's happened to me too. Wonderful, because Pluto is about passion, passionate something, and get pets, get. Some of you, I knew someone when Pluto's transited the sixth house, they got very interested in chemistry. It's like that chemistry is very sixth house, molecules and the details, the small things, and chemistry and biology. It's like, that's how, there was nothing, there were transformations of her workforce and whatever, but mostly that was like a consistent thing for her for many years. Cleaning as well. Put organization around you. You might almost obsessively start, or this will be for Virgos, they're naturally like that, but Pluto can make them a bit obsessive, like obsessive about germs, obsessive about health. That's a danger, you know. And another danger sometimes is that Pluto can raise some issues about health. So all the people that I knew who had Pluto in their sixth house, they didn't have any scary illnesses, but they had scares a few times, like cancerous growth that turned out to be not malign, but good, just scares. And they became more like threats, but they became way more aware of their health and started taking care of their health, getting more obsessed about healthy routines and regimes, or controlling, you know, health situations. And so it's like Pluto wants you to take control of your health situation, of your daily routines, to be more to the point there as well. Fasting can help, definitely. Big cleaning of pantries and cupboards, absolutely. Or start, if you can start, if you Pluto is transiting your sixth house, or whenever there is a transit to a planet in your sixth house by Pluto, whatever transit is, do some total cleanup, spring cleaning, do like throw out the necessary things and clean up, you know, that's a great remedy for such matters. And clean your body as well. Fasting is the best thing to prevent all diseases, yes. Nothing helps people like starving themselves, which is true, which is amazing, but it's true. And some Pluto can trigger some conditions that are Plutonian, like health-wise, like, you know, toxicity, so you need to get this out of your body. Allergies is Plutonian, or but I honestly, all the Leo rising people that I know who went through this had some issues, hormonals and stuff, but it was never life-threatening or whatever. And it just made them more aware, and more, one Pluto, one person that had Pluto transiting their sixth house, they became much more clean. They were way more messy before that. And in the last 14 years, they become like, everything is perfect. Like they use a plate, they immediately wash it. There is a thing on the floor. Always, you know, but she loves that she's become like that, because she says, I was such a mess before. And now I'm like, I'm the opposite. I've totally transformed. You know, you're incorporating Virgo qualities, basically. You're already a Virgo if it's your rising, but Pluto triggering any planet in the sixth house can lead to that. Constipation, might be anything with the excretory system. Also check your sex organs as well, in case, because Pluto rules those. And of course, Aquarius, nervous system, you have to be careful with. Yeah, this kind of conditions. And so Pluto can help you eliminate negative habits, but initially it might intensify them. And it can intensify them because Pluto has this, it takes you to an extreme, so you turn the corner and find the golden middle, and to be more moderate. Husband had gallbladder removed and pericarditis, but he recovered, and also he detoxed off of pain meds with 2 back surgeries. Well done. This is a great example of Pluto in the sixth house. So good. Yeah, surgeries. When Pluto is like, even my friend who went through that, she had a small surgery on her foot, because there was like a big black spot there. They thought it might be cancerous, but it wasn't. But there can be some surgeries, yes, that happen. It's part of it. It's one of the houses of health, and Pluto can remove the toxic parts there. Pluto is in the sixth. In the sixth, absolutely everything you've said, I've been preparing. Oh, so yeah, I hope it's not surgeries and stuff. But if it's surgeries, it gets rid of something, and it balance, and ultimately it's. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought. So now Pluto going into the seventh house. That will be felt. Seventh house, Pluto, it's passing on an angle. So that is strongly powerful, almost as powerful as passing the first house. So the thing that Pluto through the seventh house will do is, let me give you a few examples. My brother, right when Pluto was on his seventh house, because his wife left. So his wife, power struggle started happening. He found out she was having an affair. So sometimes in extreme cases, there might be betrayals of some sort. And he felt like for a year heartbroken. He was calling me every day. I've never seen him cry. And he's like, I love my kids. I don't want to not live with them. And I was telling him, look, Pluto is bringing this. So it means it's what it has to happen. It's something irreversible, but something much better is coming. And while Pluto was still on that degree, transiting exactly the seventh house cusp, he decided to go on holiday, take his two kids and go on holiday to see us, his family. And exactly then he met his current girlfriend. They've been together 12 years, the love of his life. So Pluto took him away from a relationships that wasn't healthy, wasn't as truthful, there was something untruthful there obviously going. And he wasn't very in love with his wife either. And he took him, like Pluto says, he had no choice. Pluto took it away from him, even though he thought he can't live without that. It was a bit dramatic, but it brought him the biggest love of his life. And he's so happy they're still together. Pluto's been still in his seventh house, but it's incredible how he says it's the best sex of my life, is the best. And brought him a partner that is very powerful, like partner who is financially very strong, who is very supportive, very it's like I had other friends who Pluto transiting the seventh house can meet someone very wealthy or someone with power, someone that transforms their life. Someone who can transform somehow you're transforming, because Pluto is aspecting your first house as well, but through another person plays a pivotal role. So it doesn't mean necessarily you'd always have heartbreak or whatever. You can have the best, also some of the most transformative relationships in your life. And it's not necessarily that Pluto is a sexual planet, but it's not necessarily, it can be in the form of a business partner or another close friend that enters your life. And the people, because it's a social house that will be in your life, they will be very Plutonian. They'll bring up interest about, just like my brother still has Pluto in the seventh. So him and his wife, they're big conspiracy theorists. and she has a surgery clinic. So when he met her, she had a dental surgery clinic. She still does. So he met a Pluto person, surgeon, dental, healing fields, Pluto, who is big conspiracy theorists. They actually have a video production now that they together, because seventh house is to do something with another, that they're working on bringing forbidden knowledge, hidden history of Earth, forbidden secrets from governments, and so on. They're doing this like a free project to contribute to the world. So it's interesting how all those symbologies are played out for him. While someone else said that all the time Pluto was in the seventh house, they were having very intense, they were falling in love a lot. That's like falling in love intensely. And having very intense experiences with partners, sometimes very painful, but sometimes very transformative. And that they learned so much through their partners, basically, that they, even when they were painful. But if Pluto is making a hard aspect from your seventh house, maybe to Mars, to Saturn, to your own Pluto, to more dangerous planets, be careful, because there might be some dangerous people around you, open enemies that directly attack you. I had someone who was in a court case with a business partner, and because the business partner stole the business, so they did something dodgy to them, and they were suing each other. I had someone else that was in an abusive relationship, and their partner started hitting them when Pluto started making, the conjunction, and it can get violent, but not for everyone. It's definitely, but there will be some extreme feelings of love, of hate, of that you have to work through until you find your middle ground in relationships as well, and you learn to recognize the toxic people around you, because there might be more predators that want to take from you more than they give. But yeah, the good side of Pluto is that there can be people that really help you in some way, because a Pluto is, in a sense, planet that is other people's resources as well. So there can be the notion of other people's resources, what you give and receive to each other, can be very predominant and prevalent during Pluto transiting the seventh house, that can affect your relationships. And Pluto is a ruler of the fourth house, so there can be some changes connected to family, home, or place of living that are affecting your relationship, or that impacts your relationship in some way as well. They can be the theme of parenting and parents that are affecting your relationship. And also you can notice that there are more Plutonian people around you. They can be healers, surgeons, or they can be criminals, or they can be conspiracy theories, or they can be deep occult knowledge, information. But I've also noticed something: when Pluto transits someone's seventh house, they're not the most easy to communicate with, because they're so intense about things, and they approach others intensely. It's nothing half-hearted. It's everything is like like that as well, or like very with a purpose. And my brother became like, he would call out on anything that I would do wrong, because Pluto notices anything that is off. He would immediately recognize those things in others. So you can start again this X-ray scorpionic ability to see through the bullshit of others, to see through the lie of others. So if someone dares lie to you, you'd very often find them out. I also cut out toxic members of my family under this transit. That can be that, yeah. Pluto in Capricorn, dental surgeon, can be, yeah. Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, rules teeth, yes. How about my natal Pluto is on my 7th natal house in Virgo? What does that mean? But transiting Pluto is going through Aquarius at 4 degrees. So if your 7th house is Virgo, Pluto will be going through your 12th house. So planet from the 12th, from the 7th, so this is where it is. You have natal Pluto here, and Pluto will be transiting from your 12th house. So they can be the themes. It can definitely bring themes like karmic past life relationships, themes of something hidden in relationships, maybe partner doing something behind the scenes. But it's only when Pluto aspects something from this 12th house, this can become more obvious in some ways. Or, if you're in some partnership, someone doing something behind the scenes, it's a possibility, or you, who knows, but it's usually the 12th house themes will be very strong, but we'll get to when we get to the 12th house, I'll speak about that. Let me just think about other Cancer rising people that I know. So the ultimate goal of Pluto in your 7th house will be and to teach you to transform how you relate to others. And in your communications, if you're too controlling, it will ask you to see the too jealous, too controlling, all those themes will come out so you can find the middle ground. Or the opposite, are you too permissive, letting people walk all over you, letting toxic people take advantage of you? Again, Pluto will make whatever your issue is there, will make it, blow it out more, make it more extreme. So you become so aware that you can no longer avoid that, and you do some digging. You do some psychological digging from family, from the seventh house, from the Pluto rules, the fourth house, from patterns from your early childhood. Wow, why are you like that in relationships? It can be very good, especially when Pluto hits the seventh house cusp, to work with a counselor, with another, or to have a confidant that you can share with, because Pluto in the seventh wants you to share. Don't hide your secrets. Don't try and go through them alone. Share them, express them. And if you're naturally someone who is introspective and who thinks about the consequences of their actions on others, Pluto there in the seventh house can be very easy to pass, the aim is to find equality in your relationships. Absolutely. No extremes where you're the walking mat, or the doormat, or the partner does this to you, or in business as well, to find your power and strength. And especially if you've given your power to some codependent relationship, if you think you can't live without them, if you think you can't do it on your own, or the opposite, you are so closed off of relationship, you don't trust anyone. And Pluto can intensify these tendencies even more, but only to push you to go on the other side and open up for intimacy from another. Like I've seen many times, if someone has been in a very codependent relationship, not moving, not developing, Pluto transits their fourth house, their seventh house cusp, and the relationship ends so they can find their own power. Or if someone is constantly relying on themselves, never in a relationship, Pluto transits the fourth house cusp, brings them a new partner to put them in a relationship now, to harmonize. Whatever is too extreme, it needs to be balanced. And Pluto first can make things a bit too extreme and then balance it. But the people that Pluto will eliminate from your life, which you would eliminate, it's usually for good, and they're no longer necessary there. It's more like they're stopping you. Plus, new people will appear that they're very transformative. They can be challenging as well, as I said, stalkerish and so on. But again, it's something about your own attitude to relationship that is triggering that you have to transform. Again, I cannot tell what it is. It's only working maybe with a very close friend who knows you, or an advisor, or a counselor who can help you figure out those themes of power versus powerlessness with others, and where it stems from. So Pluto just wants to bring to the surface things that were unconscious to you, unclear about relationships, so you can become, once you realize something, it starts the healing process. Also, I had a friend who, when Pluto transited her seventh house, her partner became very rich, very wealthy. It's like there was a huge transformation there in his finances. So there you go, something to look for. Another one did a very powerful, successful partnership that her business just took it off a lot more. But another had discovered in business partnership, like I told you, that there was some very unwholesome dealings happening there. Yes, very important not to manipulate or overpower others. If you do that, a lot of problems when Pluto transits the seventh house. So you look within, but that will transform your relationships as well. And some of the biggest changes when Pluto is in the seventh house comes from without, from outside. But they push you to change as well. And of course, it can change your appearance as well when Pluto is in the seventh, because it's directly opposing the first house. I've seen it many times. It can transform your, again, for the health, you have to pay attention exactly when Pluto is opposing the ascendant, for mystery or some kind of, of course, Pluto can be anxieties, and Pluto rules the adrenals, the ones that produce adrenaline, that can be overstimulated, to be careful again, and the kidneys in the seventh house as well. There is connection there to watch out more for. But of course, Pluto can help you when it exactly opposes your ascendant, a big change in your health overall, a big change in your health habits, in your daily, how you live your life, the direction of your life. But usually there is someone that, because it's the seventh house, there is someone that is influential in this change. Maybe like, oh, me and with your husband, we're going to stop drinking, or we're going to stop eating meat, or we're going to big change in the, and it doesn't mean with Pluto transiting your seventh house, you're going to divorce or you're going to break up necessarily. Only if it's not the right relationship, there is something else coming for you, but it can be that there is a big change in the life of your partner. For example, your partner decides to make a huge lifestyle change. Your partner is going through a big change in their career, whatever, and that can impact your relationship. Some changes happening there. So I'm not, the extreme cases is a partner or close person passes away, but that's very extreme cases. Again, I rarely see it. Trifon is Cancer rising, and when Pluto was transiting his seventh house cast, he's been in a committed relationship for a long time, and Pluto transited his seventh house cast. They had a child with his wife, so a big transformation. Then his wife is very Plutonian, by the way. She's very strong, and she's intense, penetrating, and she's a Reiki healer, another Pluto thing. So, but Pluto, well, Pluto was in seventh house of Trifon. He lost a few of his closest friends, because seventh house is relationship house. It doesn't just have to be. They passed away, 2 of his best friends, 3 in those 14 years. Yeah. And not necessarily the case, but when Pluto aspected the rule of my seventh house, 3 of my exes passed away in the same year. So that's in very extreme cases, you know. Pluto transiting through the 8th house. That would be if you're Cancer rising, most likely. Pluto enters its natural house. So when Pluto enters its natural house, it becomes quite powerful, but actually it works exactly like it's meant to work. And there can be more awareness and experiences around death. I mean, death is around us. It's 20 years Pluto will be in the 8th house. Everyone will lose someone in those 20 years, grandparents, uncle, whatever, cat, dog, but they can be starting on this journey to explore this more occult and mystical and forbidden topics of life after death, of what happens beyond, maybe great remedies, exploring near-death experiences. There are amazing ones on YouTube. And there is to become in touch with the occult. And it's some other people that have just had Pluto in the 8th house, they just became a lot into, like I have a friend, 2 friends that are Gemini rising, and they both became very much into astrology and exploring with such topics. And both, when one of them was involved for all of those years in extramarital affair, something hidden in the 8th house, which was never found out, but which transformed her a lot, and which with very hidden Scorpionic partners, because the 8th house is one of the partnership houses still, just like the 7th, but the 8th house is even more intense. It's very more sexual, and it might be more like a hidden relationship sometimes. And I'm not saying everyone, oh, now Cancers will have extramarital relationships, you know, it's no, but 8th house triggers through planets can bring such themes, such things of secrets. The theme is secrets, and what is forbidden, and what is taboo, and what is not accepted by society, and you're exploring those things. I don't want you to become a criminal or start cheating. But somehow, even for that friend who was having those extramarital relationship, that's very deep and transformational, it led to her, because of all the psychological turbulence that this causes, led her to explore psychology, astrology, and psychotherapy. And she kind of shook off all senses of guilt, of shame that she was living with, transformed. And actually, as a result, towards the end of this transit, her relationship with her husband is stronger than ever. And she overcame this tendency for hidden things that she normally had. And she experienced the passing of her dad very powerfully during that time, that shook her to the core. And at the same time, this extramarital relationship happened. So these two more very Plutonian events, they are 8th house events, both extramarital relationship, death of someone. They put her on this path of deep spiritual searching and healing. And she said now that it's ending, she said she's never felt, actually already in the last 3-4 years, before it has ended, before Pluto has left her 8th house, she says, like, these things that shook her, she feels light like a feather. That's another transit that of the butterfly, the cocoon, the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. I'm Gemini rising, and I'm going through Pluto transiting my 8th house, conjunction my natal month. I lost my dad, my sister-in-law, my uncle. So sorry, Zoe. It is the nature of the 8th house to experience that. Is your spirituality deeper than ever, Zoe? There's this connection to invisible worlds, and also opening of Kundalini. I've seen this happen. Like someone, the Kundalini starts rising when Pluto transits the 8th house. Not for everyone, but it has been happening. Out of body or astral travel experience, or experiences with astral entities and so on. Yes, my spirituality is so deep. Or don't worry about your son. You never worry about deaths of people before. This is my worst thing. I'm born with Pluto in the 8th house, Placidus cusp, right there. I'm notorious. Like, I always, it's horrible. It's life draining. You shouldn't do it. I always, if someone calls me and I expect there'll be news of death, and I've never received one in my life. So I'm like, what is this obsession and fear? I have it all my life there, and hopefully I break through that issue. But someone even said that, especially at the beginning when Pluto started transiting the 8th house, they had this feeling of gloom, like something is about to happen, like dread. And towards the middle, towards the end, it started dissipating. But Pluto wants to teach you emotional resilience. That's the ultimate goal of the 8th house. Emotional resilience, survival, coming back from intense emotional experiences and resurrecting yourself. And then you're freer, lighter. You're psychologically transformed. Sometimes when Pluto transits people's 8th house, they become very interested in astrology, in the occult, and psychology. You can even have a career during this period for 20 years in those fields, the occult, or where you're helping people transition, or where you're helping people transition difficult periods in their lives, like a divorce or whatever. And this can be, you can really transform society through that. This is where you can be very influential and impactful, because wherever Pluto is, you have incredible insights, incredible focus and dedication. So all of you astrologers, it's time for you to, if you're astrologers, it's time for you to make this a career, or to help a lot of people through this 8th house qualities. If Pluto is transiting 8th house. Healing, tantra, the energy healing, diving into research of any sort. And definitely your mind will become like the one that is seeing through the surface. Again, digging into the secrets. Your life might be more full of secrets now, but there is a reason. If you're pushing a situation where more reasons have to be kept, or more confidential information shared with you, it's something you have to pass. The thing that we always do is beat ourselves up a lot about such things, but it's something you have to experience. Just like my friend, she was beating herself so much. Why am I in this extramarital relationship? It's so wrong. It's so wrong. and all the hiding and whatever, but that was exactly what spurred in her this big psychological change and transformation and change in her lifestyle and health, and she lost a lot of weight, and you know, so many things that turned out great because of that, these things. I feel like you've been going through this. Shannon said she had a major spiritual awakening, mysticism, occult, astrology, tarot, death, doula energy. Doula energy. Oh, pregnancies. So Pluto in the 8th house can be about professions in emergency, in birthing, giving birth, or those that seek assisting, healing. Yes. I'm starting to study astrology. I'm obsessed. Yes. Pluto is in Libra 4 degrees and in 8th house. So let's see. Pluto is in Libra and in the 8th house. Okay. So your Pisces rising. So Pluto will be transiting your 12th house, coming from the 8th. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I think I lost. Extremely hard to do, yet I feel that's my next step in the cleansing level. Fasting, it's going to be in your 12th house. That will be astral cleaning of the body. That's again spiritual. In the 8th house, it's spiritual house coming from 8th house, going into another spiritual house, astral house. That's all about the cleansing of the feelings and transformation of the feelings in the subconscious. So it's not so external influences, like internal experiences. But Pluto in the 8th house as well. Another thing that I saw. So we're just trying to. Yes, one friend, Pluto was transiting her 8th house, and first they started with having mutual financial problems with her husband. They started going up and down with finances. And then they decided to make a business together. 8th house is very much to make a business with someone, the mutual finance of the business. And while Pluto was still in her 8th house, suddenly they started making so much money. They made a business together, apothecary, a drugstore for animals. And it was really, and it's really successful. And Pluto in the 8th house really transformed their family, the couple's finances. And she was something like a deputy mayor of town. So she quit, and now she says, I'm the wife of a businessman. And she helps her husband with she says, I don't need to work anymore. I want to, but it's for now, I want to, you know, she's looking for a different position. But anyway, sometimes Pluto can really transform the finances that you have in a partnership and be empowering there, find your strength there. They can also bring themes about inheritances, insurances, and taxes. If Pluto is making good aspects from your 8th house, you can gain and hide a lot of taxes. But if it's making hard aspects, you have to be careful. While Pluto is transiting the 8th, not to be tax audited or not to do some, you know, because there can be some consequences, seriously. There can be some power struggles for inheritance with someone. If Pluto is making hard aspects. If it's making mostly positive, it's usually inheriting something, gaining money through another person or through stock market. I've seen that as well. I've seen it even when it's been a hard aspect, Pluto in the 8th house, that someone inherits something or receives something after a divorce from a partner like alimony or a big part of a big bunch of money or something like that. Pluto is in my 8th house cusp at the moment. I'm thinking of starting a Kundalini activation business. You couldn't think of a better one. Perfect, Nabat. 8th house, Pluto, it's all about Kundalini healing. I like permanence and things to stay the same. Taurus Sun. Oh, Jess, I hear you. With Pluto through the 8th house, well, at least the transformations will be, let's hope, just psychological, usually, you know. So the Pluto extremes teaches us to take that middle Christ way. There you go. What's your opinion on Pluto's energies being viewed like half Arimanic, half Luciferic? That's I thought a lot about, which is Pluto is Soratic energies. The Arimanic is more Saturnian, but I think Pluto also carries some of Ariman, some of Lucifer. Lucifer is more desire-driven. Ariman is more mind-driven. So more like Saturn, one is Saturn, Arianic. Crucifies, Luciferic is more fiery in nature. Pluto, I connect to Sorat. Sorat is a step higher above Ariman and Lucifer. That's Pluto is destruction. Actually, it said that Sorat will work through destruction of the body through substances. And since people discovered Pluto in the 1930s, like all kinds of drugs came up, and one of the fastest way to disrupt the connection is through substances, and one of the most destructive ones. We've only had alcohol and a few other things before that, but it's become so intense. Anyway, sorry, that's a different topic. But yeah, Pluto carries these extremes. All the malefic planets would have a bit of Saturn, a bit of actually the north node is Ariman, the south node is Lucifer of the moon, but that's a philosophical topic. I've thought about on that a lot, so much so. But I guess we need a true initiate to tell us. So Pluto if Pluto leaves the 8th house, so you start feeling lighter. You start, there is no more existential dread, the survival mode of the 8th house. But you come out transformed and psychologically lighter and freer of a lot of traumas from the past. That's when Pluto is in the 8th house. It helps you release and work through a lot of traumas, not just from this life, but from other past lifetimes. That's why people get so drawn to astrology, psychology, energy work, all such matters. When Pluto enters into the 9th house, it's going to be a self house. Again, it's going to make trine. So it's going to make trine to your ascendant sign. And so if you're Gemini rising, most likely Pluto is in your 9th house. And this is very supportive time. You passed your 8th house here challenge, whatever it was. You found out, you confronted your shadow when Pluto was in your 8th house. You confronted your inner demons. You hopefully transformed them. You released them. You're cleansed. You cleanse astrally, so you're lighter. Your body is lighter now. You've worked with the astral body. Now it's time to work with the light body. The 9th house is again coming back to the light body. It's another self house. So it's a lot about self-improvement, self-growth. You'll see that. It's going to become, this was on in the 8th house, a bit more forceful. It's emotionally, it's harder. While here it's more conscious. You consciously are interested in knowledge, almost becoming voracious, reading, studying, researching different belief systems. But it might start with an existential belief crisis. Something that you believed with, you might feel betrayed, you might feel something that you've always was your modus of approaching the world, how you see the world, like your ideals might be crushed initially, that your idealistic balloon might be burst. Maybe there was some teacher or some role model that you loved or that you believed in, or some belief system that you start questioning, that you start feeling there's something fishy there. So maybe like, oh, if you're a Mormon, you might decide Pluto when it's in your ninth house that, oh, I'm gonna be a Buddhist, or you might decide like you're gonna explore the ancient belief systems and religions, or some kind of a total rehaul of your beliefs. But you become very insightful on, while Pluto is in the eighth house, you're like a psychologist. You become in the eighth house, you become very insightful about psychological problems, the deep reasons behind the actions of someone, the destructive tendencies and dramas, and how to transform them. But when Pluto goes in the ninth house, a different type of deep understanding emerges, which is more based on knowing kind of the answers to questions like, and going for such questions, where are we coming from? What's the purpose of humanity? What's my purpose? How can I contribute to the larger good? So these are the bigger questions. The eighth house, you dig inside. Why am I like that? Why is it like, why am I feeling these ways? How can I transform myself, inside? In the ninth houses, you ask yourself the big questions, you answer them, you start looking for answers. Is there a God? Who is God? How is the universe created? And oh, thank you, Zoe. I got divorced when Pluto was in my eighth. Yes, eighth house is one of the houses of divorce, Stephanie. That's why there's the money thing as well, mine, yours, that you have to deal with Pluto in the eighth at some point, not all the time. But Pluto in the ninth already is about who are you truly deeply, and what is you're starting to ask those very big questions, and you might start investigating. It's again very spiritual house, but it's the more philosophical, the big questions of life, and you might get interested more in world events and ideologies and belief systems, and it's very humane and humanistic house, the ninth house. You want to help others, humanity. And also some of you might be called into a role of a teacher. I was saying that a lot of Gemini, when Pluto is transiting the ninth house over the next 20 years, Gemini rising people might feel that, might have some mission to speak out and bring out knowledge to others, to be in a role of a guardian for others. And often you are qualified to be a guardian. You've come from Pluto in the eighth house. You've gained deep insights about yourself. You've purified your astral body. You've paid a lot of karmic debt, and you're more clear about, you have your own demons under control. So now you're allowed to soar up and lead others and show them the way. So in a teacher, inspirational, cultural more rather than psychotherapist. Let's unravel the deep. And I have Pluto in my ninth house by birth, so I can tell you, I'm obsessed constantly about what is the truth. So you can be confronted with answering questions about morality. You can be questioning a lot all the time. Is this moral? Is this for the highest good? So you can become, even if you're not religious, you can become very focused on what is the higher will of God, what is looking for omens and signs, trying to decode the mind of God, whether through astrology. That's why ninth house is future prediction. Astrology is eighth house and ninth house, but eighth house is the transformation, the psychological transformation, digging inside, while ninth house is predicting the future and seeing like what's to come. So you start becoming more futuristic, future-oriented, obsessed with what's coming in the future. You might even have some prophetic visions, prophetic intuitions, let's say, not visions, about what's to come. But you might, of course, it's one of the houses of higher mind thinking. You might be drawn to exploring, even to have the spiritual knowledge about lower astral spheres, to explore this, to have the spiritual knowledge about the darker forces as well, because you need to know your enemy, whatever you call it. And my teenage son just finished his Pluto in 8th house, such an intense years behind us. So much internal struggle, so many fears, self-digging. I hope he'll relax now. Yes, he will. I mean, for a young child, especially Pluto in the 8th house can be overwhelming. For more mature people, we have more tools to deal with that. And, they say that the most difficult thing is the astral cleansing, the cleaning of the astral. And that's what Pluto does when it's in the 4th, in the 8th or 12th houses. It cleanses the astral. But after that, we're so, even in the middle, it's 20-year process, even in the middle, you start feeling better. And when Pluto enters the 9th house, you can start studying something new. You can take on an education, decide to pre-qualify, decide you have new hope now. And you're like, I've done the internal work. Now it's time to look to the future. I want to do something new meaning. Because you find new meaning in life, you change what you find meaningful. So because of that, your whole direction in life can change. So you want to explore and study something else, higher knowledge or whatever, something that has more meaning for you. Your future goals can transform as well during this time, but it's very empowering because Pluto is making a trine to the ascendant when it's in the 9th house. So that's overall a lot of self-growth, self-improvement that is conscious, deep insights into the future and into self-growth in any way, organizing knowledge into a system. Aquarius is a system. Pluto, perfect, Anna. Since Pluto is in Aquarius, maybe we try to organize knowledge, 9th house, into a system. Perfect. And that's what I've been doing all my whole life, trying to make sense of all kind of higher principles. And but yes, the problem is there might be some power struggles with on your belief systems, because you might become quite intense on your belief system. So the danger is to try and impose it on others, or others, and this kind of a belief system clash can appear if Pluto is making hard aspects. But even then, I don't think it's a big issue. Or you might have to clash. The 9th house is teachers and other peoples that have degrees or that qualified, or other peoples with some kind of authority or esteem. And you might clash heads with such ones and have a power struggles, professors, teachers, role models, and you'll be questioning even, I have Pluto in the 9th house, and no matter what teacher I study with, I question if I'm God all the time. I'm like, I question, even if he appears here with me, I'll have to test him. Is it from God or from the low astral? So you're not going to be naive to accept all kinds of belief systems. You test every belief system that comes to you. You put it under the fire of Scorpio energy, Plus, you can you can have the mission in this life to teach others for those 20 years ahead, at least, about some powerful truths, about some uncomfortable truths. It's the 9th house is the house of propaganda. And it's another marketing house, so you can do miracles there with this Pluto, and manipulate the public opinion. 9th house is the house of second marriage. Well, I use the 2nd house as the house of second marriage, 9th house as the house of third marriage, because then the 9th house is the 8th from the 2nd. But I don't know, I follow the ancient Vedic system of the next marriage, because it doesn't make sense to me that the next marriage partner will be the sibling of the first. I don't know. The other one has more logic to me, but maybe. the ninth house is also father figures in ancient astrology. So they can be power struggles with father figures, with the father, or some more intense experiences there. So that's another thing to watch out for. But otherwise, all in all, through the ninth house, yes, Pluto can get you into exploring some very deep knowledge and asking very hard questions and calling out on the society and bringing to the awareness of others the anything unwholesome, which is Pluto, anything that is dirty, anything that is bringing it out for the awareness of others, the ninth house, because you're like you become a preacher. But ultimately, the ninth house is your higher self, it's your intuition, and Pluto wants you to find your power through your intuition. And not only to listen what others are saying and what they want from you, no, for you to hear your own internal higher voice and to forge a deeper bond and connection with God again, with higher powers. It's more like to start trusting the universe in a sense. And this is very manifesting, ability to manifest with your thoughts, because the ninth house is your higher mind. So if you align your higher ideals with the divine ideals, it has an ability to manifest more powerfully and to make things happen. And Pluto making trine to your sign, usually it's almost like magical ability through strong willpower to make things happen. I take this transit in the ninth house. We can publish a book about something we're obsessed with. Oh yes, ninth house is spread it to people. Aquarius, you can become known for spreading some knowledge that you're obsessed for. Publishing is also, I think publishing is more third house nowadays. People can publish their own online books and whatever, but it's on this axis of knowledge. So definitely, yeah, as I said, others might be called to spend a considerable time abroad, Pluto, or to get fascinating researching and studying and learning Pluto things, Arabism, ancient languages, history, buried history, occult and whatever, astrology. But foreign countries is the ninth house. So traveling, you can, or living abroad for longer periods of time during Pluto in the ninth house, it's also a possibility. And it might be connected to work because Pluto rules the sixth house for Gemini rising. So that's why they might have to, service or work. They might have to live abroad because of that. And it might be great fascination with exploring foreign countries. But if Pluto is making hard aspect in your ninth house while transiting, be careful traveling during that time because there is dangers in foreign places. And you might be really called in a mystical way to certain foreign places to visit while Pluto transits your ninth house, because it might be connected to past lives for you and to past traumas that needs to be resolved. How would it affect you if you have Venus also in the ninth? Falling in love with a foreign, some fated love connection with someone from a different place, a different social class of you. Social class, and it can be a deep passion and love for traveling, or even money that comes to you through interactions with foreigners or through teaching or higher knowledge. But they can be definitely something connected to love and relationships together. My best friend is having Pluto move into her ninth house and is flying to New York on 23rd of March, even though she has no idea about astrology. Wow, there you go. Straight on the day Pluto is moving, and she's already exploring foreign places. And you might be fascinated with Plutonian places to visit, like the Arab world or places that are more mysterious, that are not so mainstream. But as I said, I keep feeling, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it for many Gemini, that they're ready, Gemini rising in my life, and other in Sun as well, that they're ready to take a esteemed position in society as a leader or someone wise to show the way for others in some way. I see how life, Pluto through the 8th house has prepared them for that. Then Pluto will transit for the 10th house for Taurus rising, or if Pluto is transiting your midheaven. If you see 10th house cusp in Aquarius, that's you. Wow, that's the other most important. So if you happen to have your ascendant or the 1st house cusp or the 10th house cusp in Aquarius, this is the most important transit. These are the 2 most important house cusp and points in the horoscope together with the sun and moon. The 10th house cusp, the ascendant. So the 1st house cusp, the 10th house cusp, the equal in strength, the sun and moon. Those 4 points, that's, when Pluto transits there, it's pay attention. Big things are about to happen. So I told you, when Pluto transited my mom's midheaven, she retired, like a big shift in her public role, in her career, and she's very happy retired. But it's a bit of a shock on the system. Another person that I knew when Pluto just transited the 10th house, they became into a lot of power. You can see people like Macron, for example, the Prime Minister of France. He had his MC, I think, in exactly where Pluto is transiting now. And when Pluto transits there, you can see that people come into power or they're given a lot of power, but also they can be clash with very powerful authority figures. And they can, Pluto naturally rules the 7th house for Taurus rising, if you're Taurus rising, but this can impact your relationships as well in some way that can be involved, but they can be the involvement of someone else, a powerful authority figure that transforms your lives, that changes it. Yeah, so if Adina, you're Gemini rising and MC is in the 10th, so you have to listen both to the 9th house and the 10th house, because when Pluto passes over your ascendant in Aquarius, your midheaven, 10th house cusp in Aquarius, you'd feel it as 10th house, those 2 years, very powerfully. So I have seen sometimes people rise to great recognition when Pluto transits. If you're a moral, good person, but sometimes the power that you're given, you have to be careful. Like Marcon, he's gonna lose very soon. He's not gonna. He took so much power when he became on top. When Pluto just transited his midheaven, he went to the other extreme and he took a lot of. People just hate him in France. Sorry, I'm not talking for all French people, but the ones that are my friends. And while Pluto is still transiting his 10th house cusp, that will be the end of him very soon. I mean, he will fall from power. Because if you abuse power when Pluto is in the 10th house, and he became like power hungry, it's a huge fall down. So that's the danger you have to be careful with. But most people that come to those meetings, they're the opposite. They're not, they're just the opposite usually, I noticed. So they need to come into their power and to find their own authority figure. Someone can become a business owner. Someone can transform what they work, what field they work in, what career. And if you're in a career again, which is not truthful for you, the circumstances will show it to you. That there can be a toxic boss there, or situation that is very extreme, that it's pushing you. This is not the place for you, because Pluto only wants the truth. And when it transits the midheaven, it will do with nothing but the ultimate truth for your career and that you're supposed to do. Another person that I know that Pluto just transited the 10th house cusp, he was struggling with his career, even though he's incredible, very high level person, but for the previous few years he was. And the moment Pluto crossed his midheaven, finally he got the clients he wanted. It's like he took off because he was doing the hard work, because he was a moral, good person. He's in the right field. Actually, Pluto's been in he's in the right field that he is. So things just clicked. It was perfect, like, whoo, he published his first book. He got clients. Each client is $20,000, and he has multiple clients that he coaches. He's a coach. And it's like things lined up. Finally, he came into the power and the recognition. While someone else might fall from grace. So if you're in the wrong place, if you've been abusing power, if you've been, if it's not the right place for you, it's just the universe is gonna take it for you, career-wise, Jess says she's 0 degrees Taurus sun. The sun acts very much like the midheaven, by the way, because the sun and the midheaven have similar, it's career related. So it's the highest good you can give to the world. So Jess is going through massive career change currently. Pluto is about to square my sun. Yeah, it's already started for you. And the 10th house, the MC in particular, is one of the parents. So it can be a power struggle with one of the parents, or some big change in their life. On worst case scenario, I even, like, that's my Voldemort word, death. I'm like, so the 10th house as well, I've seen sometimes people enter into power struggles with institutions and so on. So with Pluto, you have to be careful. You shouldn't fight face on. You have to be wise. Like, that's my word for Pluto transit. And with the 10th house towards authorities and people of power, be gentle as a dove, clever as a snake. Gentle but clever, strategic, But overall, I want to give you hope. If Pluto's going to transit your MC, this can be the time when you really get empowered, when there's a big change with your career as well, but where you can be put in positions of public responsibility or visibility in the next 20 years. If Pluto is transiting your 10th house, can be time when you're somehow in positions of visibility. So you have to be very conscious of your actions, not to do anything dodgy, because you're seen. It's up there in the air. You're seen. Any misstep, and you're here to learn up for those 20 years how to claim your power through your contributions to the world, through your career, through your taking care of the material life, of course, and the right actions, how you use power with the right actions. Oh, there's a lot of Taurus suns. You can also be drawn to Plutonian careers. And Plutonian careers are connected to, again, transformation, healing, astrology, psychology, cleaning, surgery, money, hidden money, investments, banking, energy of some sort, all of those things. And you're learning how to deal with authority. You're learning your own authority to blossom, but also you're learning, and you're here to show you how to healthily deal with authorities, and how to. I remember when Pluto was transiting my 10th house, I was 10 years old when it started. And I had a teacher that was very authoritative. And I was traumatized. I would freeze every time I see her. As a child, I couldn't cope with that. It's like I was totally paralyzed, and I was having nightmares even. And she was like this thing that is bigger than the world for me. So that very childish way, but it's like there might be some figure that appears in your life that is very powerful, and some circumstances that are like someone with more authority figure or whatever. And you have to learn to establish your own authority in a, again, not in an extreme way, to confront authority, not to fight with them, but also to take your power back from such figures. And for me, when Pluto was transiting the 10th sign from my sun, so that would be if you're Taurus sun, I just had Pluto square my sun, transiting in the 10th sign from my sun. That's when all my career developed. I felt empowered through everything I achieved. Yes, surely there were some difficulties and overcoming them, but Pluto gives you incredible willpower. So you can take this, the concentrated willpower of Pluto, and focus it into your career. And you focus it to achieve something big, great. I have absolutely never believed I'll be able to do that. I felt so helpless in the big white world. This is the 10th house, the big white world, what you can achieve there. Pluto will show you in the next 20 years that you can make a big change, and that you have authority, and that you can achieve something incredible if you want. Even at least that's what happened for me, despite Pluto making only hard aspects from there. Okay, just a little break again because my brain's starting to freeze. And we'll come back, and I think we'll be finished. We have 2 more houses only. Maybe let's not finish. Let's continue. But when Pluto transits the 10th house, there might be a few changes of career and transformations and constant reinventions in your career. So it's not going to be just once when you transit the midheaven. It can be constant needing to reinvent yourself, needing to reinvent yourself and your role in society. And you can achieve high and visible and change society. You can even be in positions, in government positions or whatever, where you do structural changes. Or if you have already a business or career you like, you can do big changes there to reinvent yourself, to rebirth yourself again in a different way. But just watch out for those power struggles with those 10th house people that we talked. Pluto in the 11th house from the ascendant. This is very supportive this is very supportive for Aries rising people. Pluto will be making sextile to them, so maybe some power figures and friends will be helping you. And people in power or people with influence can be benefactors for you, can help transform you. You can meet in your environment very more Plutonian people that are deeper, that are the occult healers, spiritual of some sort, or people with power and money and influence, or just psychologically powerful people that can transform you. You can become member of Plutonian groups to transform society in some way. And use Aries will be the one that are probably building the new communities of the earth in the next 20 years, whether online or properly in real life. You'll be connecting people, you'll be called to network, and your biggest impact will be by the contacts you have, how you connect others, how others are connected to you. And you're someone that can influence and impact society in the next 20 years. And what will be very important is who you connect with, who are the people that you're connected, because together as a group, you can make something big. You can, from the grassroots, you can really transform society. So you might start feeling passionate to join groups or to network, or yes, if you have an Aries stellium, same thing. For me, because I have an Aries stellium or whatever, if you have more than one planet, more than the sun, or you can also look at the transit from your sun sign. Or if you have, like a friend of mine has the moon, Mars, Venus, and Mercury in one sign together, she says every time the prediction in house from the moon is the most correct for me. So if you have strong Aries, or if you're Aries rising, this Pluto in the 11th house, if you have Aquarius on your 11th house cusp, you can become very passionate to join groups and organizations, but also you can become a bit obsessed with what's happening currently in the world, following political things, following social things. It's a little bit too much. I'm feeling it already. I mean, and it's, and you do one thing to be careful. You can, if Pluto is making some hard aspects from that 11th house, you can attract some predatory friends, or friends that are dangerous, or friends that can lead you to bad ways. When I had Pluto transiting my 11th house, even though it was making only trines, I was surrounded by such a bunch of people. I was drawn, kind of drug lords, people from the underworld, people that were trying to undermine the system, people that worked on the streets. It's like, and also I knew very rich people. Pluto is someone very rich, someone with a lot of power. And we were such a weird, I was in such many different groups of friends of my social environment that I was found. 11th house is not necessarily your closest friends, you know, this is your social environment. And it was a busy time socially. And I forged some of the most intense friendships in my life that are still with me to this time, because we were bonded through all the things we experienced together, very Plutonian things, very kind of extreme. Let's test the boundaries of how far can we go, if we're immortal or not. So close friendships can be in Vedic astrology, they say it's the second house. It's like your family, the ones that support you. I've seen many times when people have problems with a very close friend, it can be the seventh house as well. Someone who is like one-on-one, you speak a lot, but also close friends is the 11th. Like I've seen, it's friends, definitely all types of friends, but the 11th includes also the wider social circle, like the environment you hang out, the friends that you're connected through like-mindedness and so on. So yeah, be careful, but some friends can show you the darker side of life, or they can show you the deeper side of life. They can show you the dodgier side of life, so whichever one. Oh, thank you, Zoe. It's all the siblings, absolutely. 11th house is all the siblings. So they can be something that you feel more bonded emotionally, psychologically with an older sibling. Pluto is also that they're going through big transformations and changes in your life. But I've seen it that when something happens to my siblings, it's usually the 3rd house, maybe because I don't have planets in the 11th that get triggered. But the 11th house, Pluto, overall, I think your friendships can deepen. You can become very, again, you have to learn and not restructure, but like transform. Your whole social friend groups can change. I remember when Pluto just entered my 11th house, I moved from Bulgaria to another country. So suddenly I don't have a single friend, and suddenly totally new social environment. So you need to, it will change in some way. And I started meeting such dodgy people, such kind of very Plutonian people. And I had to learn which one of them I could rely on and which no, because some of them betrayed me, some of them try and take advantage of me. I was like thrown into the wolves socially, and I had to make my own way socially and find out who are the people I can trust. And by the end of this transit, I had a call it SOAR group of 3 or 4 friends that I just knew, you know. So some of the most deep bonds, emotional you can form, but also if Pluto is making hard aspects from there, be careful from some people not to lead you astray or to take advantage of you. Because even with the good aspects, it happened to me, but I could quickly, you know, it was benevolent. I could quickly find a way out. And Pluto in the 11th house also can indicate 11th house is business. So if you're already in some kind of a business, you can reach out to more clients, and you can kind of target the right groups of people, the right clique of people, 11th houses, clients, followers, and so on, that are, you know, only if you have such a career, such business that you need this. And choose your tribe. So Pluto will ask you there to consider, who is your tribe? And your tribe is someone actually that you connect on intellectual level, because it's Aquarius, that you can like-minded, of course. And let's see, Pluto rules the ninth sign. No, rules the eighth sign from ascendant in Aries. So you have to be a bit careful for some hidden things happening with friends and power struggles. So that's part of the thing, people in social environments and power struggles as well, and some hidden developments. But if Pluto is making good aspects from the 11th, while it's happening, don't worry. Maybe you can become more rich thanks to a benefactor, friend, or older sibling, or some investment, mutual investment that you've made. It can financially enrich you in some way as well. Online communities, yes, you can become obsessive, but also with Pluto, you'd cut off a lot of people. I don't think you want. It's like Pluto doesn't. If you don't have the balls to cut them off, life will cut them off from you. What if Pluto will conjunct my Mars, Venus in the 11th house, squaring Neptune and Scorpio in the 8th? Be careful not to be misled about financial things from someone. It doesn't have to be a close person, whatever, might be just someone who's, trying to some get rich quick schemes or stuff like that. Stay away from those things. But otherwise, there can be some secrets that are coming to the surface about some people in your life, the 11th house. But on another level, the 11th house is also your gains and earnings. But Pluto can empower you by showing you that you can be gainful in life, and that you can following your dreams and wishes. That's a house of rewards. And even Pluto can darken that house of rewards. So they can be, if you've had a business for a long time, and it's the right one, Pluto can really enrich you there now. Pluto can make you passionately follow some goal or dream. That's when I discovered astrology, when Pluto was in my 11th house and Jupiter in the 9th. And I just dropped everything else. Suddenly I had a goal, I had a focus, had a long-term dream. And I was so grateful for that. And the friends that I made there, the toxic ones fell through, the good ones stayed, and such deep bond. So I liked it a lot. Pluto in the 11th. I hope, I think like angels were guarding me then, how I survived. Criminal organization, Pluto in the 11th, yes, be careful. Or joining the Illuminati, the secret societies and that make a lot of money, business club of some sort. Actually, Saturn transiting my 11th took away the only two people I'm close to here. Yeah, one to different country and the other just cut off all connection. Oh, sorry, Sarah. Now Pluto will bring you very deep friendships, and friendships that can even have sexual undertones. You never know, because house of friends, planet of sex and desire. But you'll be very bonded in some mutual goal and mission with like-minded people. The worst side is power struggles with friends, and friends that are batshit, not crazy, but psychos. But again, this will show to you people around you. You experience the Plutonian energy the next 20 years through the people around you, and you can be very influential and impact large groups of people and organizations that are for altruistic causes or with big projects. Pluto, and I've seen Pluto in the 11th can be like big gains as well. So I've seen it. It's you need to have it as a given in your horoscope that you can have that. But when it goes there, they can be the rewards and the big gains that are coming. And getting plugged into the economy in some way, in such a way that you can make lots of money and reach lots of people and transform large crowds of people. Pluto going to the 12th house. Oh, okay, been waiting for that. I just went through that. Sorry. Pluto is in the 12th house. That's for Pisces. If you're Pisces rising or stellium in Pisces, you can feel it. Just went through that. And I really had to sit and think deep what happened, because it's such a long period. I mean, so many things have happened, and they're not all due to Pluto. And when Pluto entered my 12th house in 2009, 8, it was, yeah. I suddenly, my life became way less social. There is like Pluto can put you in a state of isolation a bit while it's transiting the 12th house. But I liked it that way. And it continues to be like that 12, 14 years later of, yeah. And there can be like a prolonged period where you might need more space alone, or in foreign countries. 12th house is another of the areas in the sky, like the 9th, that a person can go through when Pluto transits there, through prolonged experiences abroad, in a faraway country, or even a bit in isolation. In extreme cases, in prison, but I haven't seen that for any client so far when Pluto transits the 12th house. So it has to be very extreme case or some kind of a forced isolation. But usually it's life circumstances become that you're not a social, so you can focus more within. So it's an astral house, feeling house that Pluto is transiting for Pisces. So it's their own house as well. So it's something they're naturally attuned to. So there'll be awakening of deep intuition. So one of the things I realized in those 14 years evolutionary that happened, I started trusting my intuition. I knew the word intuition, but I didn't know ever what it was. And now I just get body signs, how I feel. I can recognize this inner voice, this subconscious. And I worked through a lot of feelings, negative feelings. I've always felt shame, guilt, overpoweringly, almost like I'm someone who is traveling on a train without a ticket. I'm doing something wrong, and any moment I'll be caught, and I don't know why. I'm not a criminal. I'm a pretty good person, always thinking something is my fault, I'm in the wrong. And this helped me work through a lot of those issues. It happened subconsciously almost. It happened because life happened. And when I turn back, I say, wow, thank you so much. This petrifying feeling of guilt, of shame is gone. But I did do some shameful things when Pluto in the 12th house in ancient times is known as the house of sin, where you do those hidden vices that you're ashamed of, whether it's cheating or whether it's doing some crimes. It was a very evil house in ancient times, or anything that is vices, whether it's lying. And I was in a situation for a bit where I felt very guilty for certain secret behaviors that I had. And I had to work through that. So you kind of expel those feelings, you transform them. Plus 12 house is traumas, past life. When Pluto is there, or early life, they can start, it's buried, the subconscious that you've buried and you don't remember. Things that you don't remember can start coming to the surface. And this is how you free a lot of those locked up feelings in your astral body. And you start being freed from that. And a lot of them came not spontaneously remembering past lifetimes, but I had 2 regressions and I remembered, and I saw certain things that made sense to me. So that can be an interesting thing to do. And another thing was that, and I was very much involved with anything that was hidden vice of mine intensified at the beginning of this transit. It's like all my addictions intensified, all my desire to escape reality intensified, all my desire to feelings that was so uncomfortable to kind of like, I was drinking and smoking a lot more when Pluto first started. The first few years, it was like it was obsessive. Like my hidden demons came out, my sense of guilt intensified, and intensified. But at the same time, it's almost like they exhausted themselves. I just felt them condensed in a few years. My obsessions, my addictions, my everything I'm ashamed of, and behaviors. I did them. I did those hidden things, intensify them, and I'm free now. Okay, so the astro energy exhausted itself from there, and I feel like now Pluto is about to enter my first house. There's so much weight off. It's ridiculous. I just feel it. It's getting lighter, at least emotionally. I don't know what's going to hit now on the first house. If you're late degrees Aquarius 29, yeah, that's almost like you have to watch it, or I think you'll be more like in the 12th house period. And then when Pluto goes within 5-6 degrees of your ascendant, you start feeling more into first house energy. Or maybe, I don't know. Check out and see, do you feel a big shift now that Pluto enters Aquarius, more like self-empowerment? Because when Pluto is in the 12th house, you feel like it's inner work of your psychological, like big psychological things you're reworking, and enemies increase, secret enemies. So watch if you see the increase of secret enemies or hidden addictions and obsessions that intensify, like addictive behaviors when Pluto is in the 12th. If on the opposite, you start feeling empowered, Pluto entering into the first, you taking more control over your life, then you'll see whether it feels more like the first house for you already, even though Aquarius is the last degree for you. You're wanting to get rid of your control issues. So it's, yeah, maybe you're feeling it for the sun as well. So it's more like first house. Yeah, probably it will carry a bit of both, 12 first. And so it's where a lot of the astral desires burn in the 12th house. And the 8th house desires also intensify when Pluto transits. They kind of both have not similar nature, but some of those more hidden themes. And by the end of this transit, hopefully, maybe not even the end, halfway through this transit, or if Pluto is making hard aspects or intense aspects from there, those desires burn themselves out because they're so strong. And you're on a clean slate psychologically, emotionally. But you're paying, a lot of events might be happening when Pluto transits the 12th house, where you feel things are a little bit out of your control, like you're being pushed in those circumstances, because 12th house is a fated house. The events that trigger there from past lifetimes, something that's you started before, even people that you meet a lot now will be maybe something that is karmically, well, I guess everything is karmic, everything that happens. But it might feel like, okay, you have this plan, I'm going to do this, and the universe surprises you. It's like out of the blue, totally, life pushes you in a very different direction, and you just have to learn to roll with to go with the flow, because the 12th house, the house of the ocean, the fates, and you have to be, and Pluto wants to control things. So it's like, I want to control it, but you can't in the 12th house. So you learn to, you realize that it's karmic time, not in a negative way, that has been the best, the most intense, but the happiest period in my life, Pluto in the 12th house, making only hard aspects from there, not a single good one. It's like husband, children, they're indicated by other planets transits, but psychologically, I was constantly working through my inner demons. So I was very much into reading about astrology, psychology, investigating. So this isolation that was imposed somehow with Pluto in the 12th house, you use it to dig deep, to investigate deep, to make a space, a sacred space for you where you research, 12th house about research, dive into spirituality, dive in alone time, dive in art, have a little studio if you can, or little sanctuary for you where you do your prayers, where you do your arts projects, where you do your listening to your music, some alone time. For Pluto to be working on this astral body and disconnecting from you all the things that are no longer necessary in your life, because when Pluto enters your first house, you're starting a new beginning. So gradually a lot of parts of you are dying. It's such a gradual process that you only realize it when Pluto comes out of this 12th house. But definitely I noticed that there was more hidden enemies that appeared and some kind of betrayals of people behind my back that came to the surface when Pluto is in the 12th house. And there've been betrayals before, but I never felt them like betrayals. It didn't make a big deal for me. But now it felt like there was like one true betrayal that happened, or a couple. And I was like, wow. But such kind of secrets, they come to the surface and you learn about them. If someone is doing something dodgy behind you. And as I said, I even had a psychic attack when Pluto was in my 12th house. And but it was also squaring a lot of personal planets from there. But it didn't feel like a human thing. It was energy. I was feeling it. I was feeling it here. It was so strange. It was an entity, and I could feel it coming like a dementor. And when it would leave, I could breathe again. And emotionally, it was so strange. So ghost experiences, Pluto in the 12th house. I hope Pluto is making good aspects from your 12th house. You can have connection with the ancestors, psychic insights, dreams that are healing. Even with the hard aspects, my dreams were healing. I experienced over and over the same dream, repetitive, where I was obsessed and stuck on something till I realized why I keep dreaming about the same things over and over and over and over. And actually, at the 700th time I had this dream, I was like, oh, it started changing after 10 years of dreaming, not every night, but a few of the same dreams regularly. At the end, the dream started changing. So I had in the astral, I had the end was, I realized that it's a dream, and I realized that I'm not in the situation anymore that's in the past, and that I'm not. So some kind of, you work through traumas even in your dreams. If you can do it with a psychologist, great. I just I don't like, I've tried psychologists, and so I don't like digging. Past lives, yes, absolutely. You could work part-time and do the autos. Oh. Also, if you're in careers which are 12th house, this is the time when you can make it. Like it was for me, that's when I started doing astrology and career. If you're in healing, in astrology, in mysticism, in anything connected to the 12th house, in medical professions, that can be very powerful period for you. And if you create art of any sorts, behind the scenes, artist, musician, and so on, this can be powerful time. Plus, I had a lot of downloads, and I can't say I'm glad for Pluto to leave the 12th house, but I'm glad I didn't have losses or anything like that of loved ones. I don't know. Pluto is so long in the house. People always die. Yeah. I mean, but it's for you in particular, for some of you, if it's Pisces, Pluto rules the 9th house going into the 12th house. So it will be like a dissolution and releasing of a lot of old beliefs, unnecessary ones, and spiritualization of your beliefs. So that's very good for anyone who wants to teach, to be spiritual directions, professions, because the 2 houses of Jupiter connect the 9th and the 12th through Pluto. So you can have deep insights, realizations, awareness, and you can help others with such more subtle energy, mystical, astrology, psychology, if you're in psychological field, Pluto through the 12th house, incredible insights. One of my best astrology research, well, the only one since 2008, has been with Pluto in my 12th house. This is what deepened my astrology knowledge. I started studying 2003 astrology. It didn't make sense to me until 2008 when Pluto entered my 12th house. I started understanding deep psychological things, examining and researching, and great for the knowledge and understanding of something on a deep level. What if Pluto transits your south node? Mine is in the 5th house. I've written there, south node is about past lifetimes, and Pluto is about past lifetimes. It could be like a past life unfinished love connection, or it might be, if you're at that age, connect past a child, that something that triggering, they're both connected to past lifetimes, So it's something from that you trigger in this fifth house, connected to children, connected to a lover, or to unfinished creative project that needs to be resurrected. Pluto wants to resurrect. South Node is something from the past. It can be resurrect the past love life. It can be connecting to a child from a past life or something like that, or some channeling even creatively in some way, because South Node is spiritual influence where you can channel through it. And Pluto is to some very deep insights there. Of course, there can be something that if you're in a karmic situation, romantically or whatever, it can have some ending there and such kind of situation. But yeah, so you can definitely work on those subconscious stumbling stones that keep you in self-undoing habits. You can basically, Pluto, you might not stop those habits, but Pluto will help clear off the deep reasons, emotional reasons behind those things. So these habits are no longer obsessive to you, or they're no longer unconscious process for you. And you'll be free psychologically when Pluto leaves from this 12th house. You'd feel cleansed, truly. That's how I feel, much lighter now. So, guys, we did 4 hours again. Thank you so much. Thank you for, wow, 46 people still staying here. Thank you, you troopers. Oh, thank you, Zoe. This class has been the highlight of my life this last week. I have been looking forward to have your personal. Oh, thank you. Oh, hey, I love reading all your messages, guys. Natal Pluto in 12th house. You know, Radi, you have natal Pluto in the 12th house already. You know what it's like. Battling our inner demons constantly. Oh, thank you, Kristen, Jess, Rebecca, Gita, Adina, Renata, Anna, Annie. Looking forward to being your neighbor too. I can. Thank you, Lada. Oh, everyone's been so kind and supportive. Shannon, Nabat, Sharon, Lisa. Oh, I love you all. Have a blessed Pluto in Aquarius. That's where the most important work will be for you. So everyone has their field to work on. So every other events that are happening, births, deaths, changes of jobs, whatever, they all are so you can transform that house that Pluto is transiting. The deep, is it the physical body, the material area of your life, the earth houses? Is it the astral cleansing, the emotional side? Is it the mental, the first, the seventh, the third, the 11th? How you connect with others, how you communicate, your thought patterns? Or is it the self, the first, fifth, and ninth house that Pluto transforms the most? Thank you. I don't do chart readings, Rebecca. Once I finish this thing I've been working on for 4 years, it should be done. Then I'll start doing chart readings. Maybe from the summer, I don't know. I'm hoping to have it ready in April. So maybe after that, I'll take a break finally after 4 years. Once I release the new website, and then thank you. Bye.